On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The Two Mics on Talk Sport.
Very good afternoon to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good afternoon to you, Mike. And you have hit the nail on the head for once. For once, you've got that opener of yours spot on, OK?
Yeah.
You're absolutely right in saying, why does every team who's got a sniff of the Premier League title appear not to want to win it?
Yeah, well, indeed. And why do we have so many games which are either sort of full of goals or full of emptiness? I mean, that's the question I've got for you.
And why do we have such strange results, like Arsenal getting hammered 4-0 one minute and then winning 2-0 the next game? I mean,
they did beat Bournemouth 2-0, which you might expect them to do, but you didn't expect them to lose 4-0 to Southampton.
Well, hang on. Bournemouth are only the team that are going away to places like Old Trafford and winning, so, you know, there are no easy games in the Premier League.
No, there aren't.
You know, you don't know your football if you don't know there's no such thing as an easy game in the Premier League.
I mean, some of the papers are treating Manchester City's performance as well, saying, that's how you managed to sort of tame Leicester City.
Yes.
I mean, imagine that kind of conversation going on this time last year.
Absolutely. I started reading a book early this year.
Did you?
I can't remember.
Have you finished it yet?
No, I haven't, no.
What's it called?
Well, this is the point. I can't remember what the name of it is, but no.
How do you not remember the name of the book you're reading?
Well, because I'll tell you why it's fascinating. It was about how Burnley won the league title, the league championship, in 1962. The great Spurs team had won the double in 61-62.
Yeah.
They retained the FA Cup in 62,
yes.
but Burnley miraculously somehow won with a very small squad, a very small budget, very small crowds compared to the rest of the country. You know, Turf Moor's not a huge stadium.
Well, it's probably easier in those days, though, wasn't it?
Well, what I'm saying is, this brings it back. We go back to 61. Where are we now? 55 years on.
Yeah.
OK, soon, 2016.
Thereabouts.
Yeah. And what I'm saying is, have we gone full circle now so that the Premier League is now as open as it was in the early 60s?
Well, I can't understand why it's as open as it is, though, because technically speaking, Chelsea have got more or less the same team as the team that won the league. Manchester United have got a completely different team, but it seems to be worse team. Manchester City have got the same team, but because Vincent Kompany's out for a long time, they're not as good as they used to be.
That's right.
I mean, nobody seems to be as good as they were.
Well, that's right. Now, how critical have I been of Mr. Levy, the chairman of Spurs, over the years?
Very critical.
Very critical. I've always said that
Sometimes
Mr. Levy...
I've often thought it sort of bordered on the unfair.
No, well, you think it's unfair, but I've said he often appointed the wrong manager. The managers were short-term appointments. They didn't last long enough.
Yeah.
He was authorising the expenditure of up to £100 million in close seasons.
Although now he's got a great manager. You see now Pochettino's now being talked about as the next manager of Chelsea, possibly the next manager of Manchester United.
Do you mind if I just finish my conversation?
Well, it depends how long you're going to be. Well, you know what? I'll tell you something about...
It's no good you stealing my idea halfway through a sentence.
I'll tell you something about letting you finish, right? Because I was thinking, I was reflecting last night after you left the pub early to go to your birthday party.
Oh.
Actually, I thought I let you talk too much yesterday.
Oh.
I thought you were spending far too much time monopolising the microphone.
Excuse me.
So today, I'm going to monopolise it.
Were you on the large whiskey chasers when that thought came into your head?
Well, I did have a couple of whiskies last night.
So you did have a few large whiskey chasers.
I was home at 8:30.
That's when that thought came into your head.
I was home at 8:30.
Most of the correspondence I received after the show yesterday was that you never shut up.
Really?
And that actually people tune in really to listen to me, but they get too much of you.
Was that from your mother?
Anyway, let me finish about Spurs. What I'm saying is...
What are you saying?
If I was a Spurs fan, and I am not...
Of course not.
But we have some very good friends who are Spurs fans.
We do, including Paul Hawksby, of course.
Paul Hawksby, of course, and Mr Sims, our friend.
Indeed,
at the Lane. I would now start a kind of an undercurrent to say, Mr. Levy, now go and spend in this transfer window and bring us a Premier League title. Because I honestly think Spurs are equipped to do it.
Well, funnily enough, since you mentioned, as we were talking to Colin Murray earlier, that John Stones should go to Spurs, a couple of Spurs fans...
I don't think he should go to Spurs.
Well, no, but they should go after him. A couple of Spurs fans have said they don't think he'd get in the team.
Well, maybe he wouldn't, but what I'm saying is this.
Why would he go there, then?
I don't want John Stones ever to leave Everton, but I'm looking at it through the glasses
You know he's going to, though, don't you?
No, I don't know that at all.
He will have to.
No. Anyway, looking through the glasses of a Spurs chairman, Mr. Levy, and I'm thinking, right, I've made mistakes in the past. This time we could actually do it. I'm going to get Vardy to come here because I'm going to convince him that we're going to win the Premier League. Now, that might be very acceptable to a lad like Vardy, who could well be overwhelmed going to a Chelsea or a Manchester United.
Well, possibly so, but how about he just stays where he is, because he might be thinking, as Claudio Ranieri is probably telling him, if you stay here, we could actually win the Premier League and you could get a game in the Champions League next season.
I can't argue with that at all. But what I'm saying is I think Spurs have got better resources to actually see it through to the end of the season.
Yeah.
If Spurs start on a good run in the new year, suppose they come up with 4, 5, 6 victories in the first 2 months of the new year, January,
They're playing Everton next, aren't they?
They are.
They'll get 3 points there.
Well, I'm not going to read that to that childish sort of ribaldry. But who knows? Who knows who'll get the points there? Because it's such an up and down, crazy.
That's the thing. I mean, you can barely predict. Although I have to tell you, in the Selco predictor from last night, we both predicted a draw.
Oh, yeah, I did 2-2.
Yeah, I did
2-2.
I think I did 3-3. We've both got some points there.
Yeah, exactly. We've got a draw. But no, look, what I'm saying is, makes absolutely clear, I never want John Stones to leave Everton, but if I was looking at it from the perspective of Spurs chairman, I'd say, I'm going to make one push here. 50 million for Vardy, 50 million for Stones. That's what I'm going to bid. We're going to get him and bring him here. Of course, I don't want to lose Stones, and Everton, I don't think, would sell. Almost certainly, because we are very ambitious. And frankly, Everton have got to do something in the break between Christmas and the New Year,
but there's already,
and shake our team up because we've got the basis of a very, very good team.
Well, you have.
We don't want to be selling people like Stones.
You have. But of course, already we're hearing that a lot of money's going to be spent in the January transfer window. Arsenal are saying they're going to spend money, although we all know what happened last time. They ended up getting somebody who was less than worth anything. You've got Manchester City because of company saying they're going to spend some money. I think there's going to be some big deals done, and I think possibly Everton will have to kind of handle a couple of teams coming in for Stones,
and by the way,
possibly an awful lot of money.
Spurs have got a few players.
You're just going to ignore that.
No, I'm not ignoring that. I take all that in, but my brain works faster than yours. I'm like a sponge.
You are like a sponge.
I can both take in.
You've got a face like a sponge.
I can both take in information and emit information at the same time, just like a sponge does. That's what a sponge is built for, to absorb water and get rid of moisture at the same time.
Really?
Okay?
Right.
Now, what I'm going to say
is... So why is that then, if you put it in water, all it does is absorb it?
Because as soon as you take it out of water, it expels the water.
No, it doesn't.
It does.
It's not true, not unless you squeeze it.
Yeah, well, that's the point.
It doesn't do it by itself.
I read a...
there is not a sponge alive that actually disperses itself of water.
In one of my business journals last night, I read a story about...
You were at a birthday party last night.
I was, but I was reading when I get home before I go to bed. It settles my mind.
Does it?
I like to impart information in my head before I go to bed, because then I sleep on it, and it's in my head when I get up.
Right, okay.
And this was about a businesswoman who used to be a cleaner, had 2 children, single mother, rented flat. Because the cleaning job was affecting her back, she invented a new mop. And it was a mop that was a sort of fold-away mop. You see what I mean? So it could have a long stem, or it could be a short stem. It was
like a telescopic type
telescopic mop. That's a good expression. You could clean the ceiling with it and all sorts of things.
So it didn't fold away as such.
Well, it did fold away. If it was cantilever. It was a telescopic, not cantilever, telescopic mop.
I'd like to see a cantilevered mop.
And what I'm saying is, this woman has now got a business fortune of £30 million from that. This is what I like.
That's enterprise. That's an awful lot of mops.
This is what I like, people. Anyway,
I want to hear more about this birthday party. So tell us about the birthday party.
The listeners aren't interested in the birthday.
Yeah, they are. They want to know what you got, apart from that cloth-covered duck.
Yes,
life size.
Yes.
What else did you get?
Well, I'm still suffering the problem I've had all my life, and that is that when I get my presents on Christmas Day, that's for Christmas and your birthday,
right?
And that could have psychologically flawed me in quite a difficult way, really.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
But that's what I get.
One of the many things that psychologically.
And this is what I got last year. But I mean, look, you have to go and see the family on your birthday, don't you, for obvious reasons.
So you say.
And yeah, absolutely. And of course, it was a familial gathering.
Yeah.
And
so it all went well.
Warmth and wellness and no problem at all.
Good. I'm very glad to hear it.
Yeah, good.
Peter has tweeted in early doors to say this. Porky did indeed monopolise the microphone yesterday, droning on and on and on, just like he's doing now at the start of today's show.
What?
Hashtag Red Bull.
I don't think so.
Absolutely true. Here's one from Bob, who says, please do not invite any football pundits this afternoon. You guys can do much better by yourselves. Well, that's a terrible thing to say, because we're going to have
of course it is.
Luke Edwards on from northeast of England, who's going to be talking about the game tonight between Sunderland and Liverpool.
He's a top man.
He is indeed.
Wow.
We are the two mics,
Luke.
and we got lots more to come, including, I'm going to ask you why you're limping, and I'm afraid there's been a death in my family, which I'm going to tell you about as well. This is Talk Sport.
Screaming with the crowd.
another great Motorhead song, that, isn't it? I mean, the tributes to Lemmy continue in the papers today. Some of the stories you read in there are absolutely amazing stuff.
I mean, look, we'll talk about it in a minute, because we've got to talk about the death in your family first, of course, which is something we have to concentrate on.
Yeah,
but
of course.
What I was going to say is that I started reading all the tributes to him on the way home from this show yesterday.
Yes.
Well, I mean, I came and had a drink.
You should have really read them before the show yesterday, to be honest.
No, because
that would have been better.
No, there's so much work to do. You know, dragging you around like a tractor tyre behind me that, you know, I don't have time to do it. But anyway, I had a look at a few more when I got home.
Yeah.
And I found out that actually this guy was a very average musician.
Well, I wouldn't say that at all.
Yeah, in fact, he wasn't any good at all.
That's rubbish.
Most people thought he was rubbish.
That's not true.
The highest...
Do you know he was in Hawkwind as well?
Well, he might have been in Hawkwind.
You remember the song Silver Machine?
Yeah.
Which is the only song that anybody remembers from Hawkwind.
I want to take a ride.
Well, he sang that as well.
In a silver machine.
Yeah, well, you don't have to sing it. But my point is that,
don't you know what I mean?
He was a very accomplished musician, and it's wrong for you to say
But
that.
what I found out was this, right? Drinking heavily, this is from an obituary, right?
Yeah.
Drinking heavily and being extremely loud are certainly the two things most associated with Lemmy, right? And he said, if we moved next door to you, your lawn would die. But in fact, some might argue that his personal habits greatly eclipsed his music. For the truth was that though Lemmy's career in hard rock spanned half a century, that's 50 years, it produced surprisingly few commercial hits.
Yeah.
Even his best-known song, 1981's Ace of Spades, which was being played continually throughout the day yesterday, only ever peaked at number 15 in the charts.
Which you did a performance of. Yeah, but they were a big live band. They used to headline festivals all the time, and they lasted a very, very long time. So, I mean, he was a legendary figure.
Yeah.
I mean, there's pictures of him in the papers today with Sid Vicious and Nancy Spungen. There's pictures of him with,
with
Ozzy Osbourne.
That's just of his lifestyle.
That's because of his lifestyle.
That's
The other great one I liked, right, was this one in the Mirror, piece by Nick Moore, who was his PR and friend for 40 years.
Right.
And he talks about the time he went to his LA apartment to be told by Lemmy that he was not allowed to drink anymore on account of being diagnosed with a mild form of diabetes. And he said he gave me a pint glass half full of bourbon and directed me to the fridge with some Coke to put in it. And where I discovered inside 12 bottles of Matthias Rosé. Yeah. And he said... with his irresistible logic, he said, I've been diagnosed with mild diabetes, so I'm not allowed alcohol, so I drink that stuff during the day, the rosé wine. Yeah. And he says, and I have bourbon in the evening.
A few bourbons in the evening.
So that was his definition of not drinking.
Well, you've got to take your hat off to the guy. He was even more excessive than Keith Richards. But also, it says here, he had great technical limitations on his voice, and his bass guitar playing could only be described as less than perfect. Perhaps it wasn't until 2005 he won a Grammy after 45 years in the business. Anyway, there you go.
So there we go. Now, I've got a couple of corrections to put out there for you after this book that you claim you've been reading.
Yes.
JC in Beckenham says, wrong again, Porky. Burnley won the league in 1960.
That's absolutely
Ipswich
right.
won it in 62.
Yes, thank you for
Colin from Woking says the same.
Do you know, I can
Porky,
tell you...
plum.
I can tell you the ones all the way through the 60s and 70s. So 60...
Well, you can if you want, but you've already got it wrong.
Hang on, 60 Burnley.
You've got Burnley wrong.
61 Spurs.
Yeah.
62 Ipswich.
Yeah.
63 Everton. 64 was Liverpool. 65 Manchester United. 66
Liverpool.
67 Manchester United again.
That would be right.
68 Leeds United. 68 Manchester City, was it?
Did Man United not win the league the same year they won the European Cup then?
No, they didn't. Are
you sure?
They won it in 67.
Yeah.
That got them into the Champions, into the European Cup.
Yeah.
European Cup 68, so that must have been Manchester City, I think. Then 69 was Leeds United, I think. Then 70 was Everton again.
Right.
Or 69 might have been Arsenal.
Well, you see, you told me
Derby.
You could do
It was Derby. Could have been Derby.
Maybe you should just stop coming out with facts which will end up being intrinsically wrong.
I am happy to accept the correction on Burnley. Thank you very much indeed. Still a great book about how they won it with these limited pool of players.
Well, wonder what happens when you get to the end of the book.
Now, what about this death in your family? Come on.
Well, I got a message this morning from my 8-year-old to say that I'm afraid one of the goldfish has died.
Not another one. That's the second, isn't it?
It is the second, yeah.
My God, what are you doing to the goldfish in your family?
Well, it's nothing to do with what anybody does to them. I think, unfortunately, there's 3 of them in the tank.
Yeah.
And this is one of
How
the original...
big is the tank?
The tank is of the required size.
It's not a bit
your question.
crowded for little goldfish.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, I told you about this conversation I had with the pets at home people. When you went there and they said, well, how big is the tank? And you say, well, it's this big. And they said, we can't have more than 2 or 3 fish in it because otherwise, it's bad for them.
They eat each other.
Well, they do. And we think that's what's happened.
No, not cannibalism.
Well, we think, because the first one died.
The cannibalism in the goldfish. goldfish bowl.
The first one that died, I think we got some kind of fish rot, fin rot of some kind, right? Because what happens is it starts to sort of just head downwards.
That's right.
It heads down and it doesn't swim anymore.
So
this one, it would
appear... like you've been face down on a pavement after certain activities.
No, not true.
The old goldfish goes face down in the bowl.
This one, it would appear, had its tail sort of munched on by the other two.
No.
Yeah. So
that's terrible. Can you imagine the sheer terror?
Yeah.
Can you imagine the sheer terror? There's, you can hide, you can run, but you can't hide.
You can't run if you're a fish, can you?
Well, you do. You can. All right.
Swim.
All right. You can swim, but you can't hide.
They haven't got legs.
Never has that expression been more appropriate than that poor little goldfish suddenly found. Can you imagine the terror when he saw the eyes of the two goldfish approaching him, and they were hungry, and they're saying,
how did he see the eyes
"You're
of
our
it
next
approaching
meal."
If it was behind him.
No, they'd come up to him. Well, hang on. This must mean that you've fallen down on your responsibility to feed the fish, and the fish are eating each other.
No, I don't think so. I mean,
how do you feed a goldfish?
How do you feed it?
Yes,
with goldfish food.
Yeah, and how do you do it? Do you throw it in?
No, you sprinkle it on the top of the water.
But if the tank's sealed, how do you do it then?
Well, of course the tank is sealed, but it has a lid. You take the lid off. In some cases, there's a little spot where you can just drop the food through. You don't have to always take the lid off.
I think you've neglected...
It's not sealed like a tomb. You have to be able to take the lid off to change the water.
I'm going to draw this to the attention of the RSPCA because I genuinely, and I hope people don't think I'm being over-emotive here, but I genuinely worry about the mental health of your other two goldfish left in that pond because one of them might be the killer and ready to eat the other one.
Well, the thing is that last time you upbraided me because the decision was taken to basically give the fish a burial in a nearby field.
Yes.
And just kind of throw it over the hedge. This one, according to my youngest, they're going to put the fish in a bowl of water, put it in the freezer until it's kind of solidified inside a block of ice.
Yes.
And then he says they're going to put it in a coffin.
What are we going to do with the coffin?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure this is a very good idea because what's the point of putting freezing it, putting it in a coffin and then melting it? Why don't they? I tell you what they should do. It should have a burial at sea or in water, they should freeze it and throw it in a stream.
I might do that the weekend. I might
go
down and just chuck it into the sea.
Chuck it in the sea. Good idea.
Channel.
Now,
that's a good idea, isn't it?
Now, talking about animal relationships, right? I'm delighted to say that we have a new dog in the office.
Yes,
it's a guide dog to one of our
of our
chaps.
What's his name?
I didn't ask, actually.
Banwell. You did ask, and you were told.
Oh, Banwell, OK. Lovely.
Well, let me tell you the story about the dog before you go on about it. When I came into the office slightly before you, because I believe in preparing for this show properly, this dog, which was a beautiful black Labrador, came up to me, and it was almost
gorgeous dog.
I felt as though I was like the dog whisperer, because obviously he knows that I own a Labrador. He's worked that out, and he's come up and he's just stood with me, and I stroked his head.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. When you came in, he started barking.
He went mad.
Which tells me that he clearly knows that you're a sort of a dodgy individual or something.
No.
Dogs are very intelligent.
And I spoke to Barnwell's owner.
Barnwell.
Is it Banwell?
It's Banwell.
Banwell. Where's Banwell come from?
I don't know.
Banwell.
I didn't ask where he came from.
It's not like Cromwell, is it?
Nothing like Cromwell.
Or Bannock Burn.
Or Ladywell.
Or Ladywell, no. But anyway, point of the story is...
What is the point of the story? The dog doesn't like you, is the point of the story.
No, dog does like me. I spoke to his owner, and he said he's never barked before in his life. So this is the first bark.
No, that's not true. Apparently he also went mad at a cleaner.
Oh, really? OK,
so maybe see something similar between you and the cleaner.
But anyway, look, what I did is, clearly, I stimulated the dog's, what's it called?
Hackles.
Perceptive powers.
Well, no, but I mean, he came to me.
Powers.
No, but he came to me and wanted to be stroked. He looked at you and immediately was aggressive.
Lovely dog, though. Lovely
Beautiful dog.
Now, I had to restrain myself because I can hold my hands up and say, I've not done it right in the past with guide dogs.
Yeah.
Because a guide dog has to take instructions only from its master.
Yeah.
It has to be unquestioning in what it's told to do.
Yeah.
Because, of course, if they're walking along the pavement and they come to the traffic lights or something like that, dog's got to be absolutely sure what it's doing.
Yeah.
Now, what happened was I got so friendly with the dog last time, called Chip.
Yes.
Who belonged to...
Sean Dilly's dog.
Yeah, Sean. He belonged to an old... when I say an old colleague, he works for Sky now, actually, Sean. But, and he does a very good job. He does a very good job here. But he had the dog. And the problem...
time, by the way.
Hang on a sec. People are interested in this.
No,
people are interested. And what happened was I used to start feeding it tidbits, right?
Yeah.
So in the dog's head, in Chip's head...
You did this to try and make yourself sort of, friendly, right?
No, because I love dogs.
Because you haven't got any friends.
I love dogs.
I
did want the dog to love me because I didn't want it to hate me, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
So I started feeding it things, But I mean, proper dog food. When I used to go to the supermarket, in addition to get all my stuff, I'd get stuff for the dog.
Yeah.
And I also got it some of those, those really hard things that you can give it which cleans its teeth.
Yeah.
I got some cleeth cleaners for it and all this kind of stuff.
Cleeth cleaners?
Yeah, teeth cleaners. What did I say?
You said cleeth
Sorry,
cleaners.
I've got that mixed up. Teeth cleaners.
Spoonerism special.
So
we're out of time now.
No, don't worry. Don't worry. This is so interesting. So the dog loved me. But the problem was, every time the dog saw me, it thought, oh, I'm going to get a tasty titbit out of old Porky.
Yeah.
So when I'm walking along the pavement one day near the office, the dog saw me the other way, the dog bolted. Now, I realised then I had to change the relationship between me and the dog. Because if the dog liked me more than it liked its master, that was a problem.
Yeah, of course. It's very rare, that, as
I can't help being liked.
Yeah, I know you can't. Anyway, hold that thought for a moment. We're going to talk to Luke Edwards from the Daily Mirror. Coming up next, looking ahead to the Sunderland Liverpool game. I'll just read you this quickly from Chris, who's tweeted at the two mics. Well done, Porky. Name as many English teams as you can, and you'll hit the mark eventually. I think that pretty much sums you up.
I got the list right.
This is Talk Sport. The two mics, we've got an awful lot of stuff coming in on Twitter. You can find us, of course, at the two mics, at Mike Parry, at IROMG. We're going to talk to Luke Edwards in a moment, who's the North East correspondent for the Daily Telegraph.
Yes.
Looking ahead to Sunderland versus Liverpool. Dumpty says this: take the fish to the chip shop and get it battered. And he says also, all dogs sense evil.
All dogs sense evil,
that's why it's barking at you. Chris says, can see why Porky would relate to old MG's goldfish. They both have the same attention span of only a few seconds.
That's
Lord
hilarious.
Rallo says, how do you feed a goldfish? Old Porky's coming out strong today with the hard-hitting questions. and one from Rahul, who says, Porky, why didn't you invite MG to your birthday party? What a shame.
Well, it was a family affair, I'm afraid, and... my mother, she's a little bit selective about who she likes to have around when, there are family things going on. You know what I mean?
Well,
you're a bit of an undesirable, really, aren't you?
Yeah, well, listen,
you are.
Listen, the last place I want to be
is
somewhere in bourgeois suburbia on a Tuesday night. It could be in London.
Your lifestyle, the slovenly way in which you conduct yourself, your rambling gait of indifference to life. I mean, my mother doesn't like that. She's a go-getter.
Is she?
Yeah.
Indeed. I bet she's sorry she had you.
What?
Let's talk to Luke Edwards, who is, of course, the Telegraph's man up in the North East. Luke, a very good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
Thanks very much indeed for joining us. I hope you're going to do better than our guest yesterday, who had a car full of kids with him. So it sounds like you're just standing out in the cold weather.
I've actually braved Storm Frank, which is causing me a few problems, but I'm just about to get some shelter. So
it's horrendous. It's horrendous. I'm surprised actually. All the storms that we've had haven't put off more of the games. I mean, we've seen some terrible weather up in Newcastle at some of their games. I mean, what's the weather going to be like? It's going to be pouring tonight, Sunderland.
I think it's going to be raining this evening. Yes, it's actually dry at the minute, just very, very windy. So there's obviously a bit of a storm in North East football as well, which is a nice link there.
Very good. Absolutely right. Well, Sam Allardyce has come out, hasn't he, and said basically, or more or less put everybody on notice that if things don't start improving soon, there's going to be a rather large upheaval coming with a lot of the players going out the door.
Yeah, I think that's probably designed as much for the owner as short ears as well. I mean, there's only so much you can do in January, but I definitely think his patience has snapped with those players. I think he knew it was a tough job, but I don't think he thought it would be this bad at this stage. And the big worry is, Sam Allardyce's teams always defend well, don't they? And Sunderland aren't at all, making elementary mistakes every game. Yeah, and I think this is the kind of gloves are off management style, I suspect, and try and inspire something. But it's obviously risky because I don't know how much they'll be able to do in January, really, and how many players are going to want to sign for a club like Sunderland.
No, absolutely right. Now, I tell you what, Luke, great to have on the show, by the way, mate. Thank you. What I wanted to say was this. Big Sam, I think, is great at rescuing things, and I think he's a really good manager. I think he did a first-class job at West Ham. What he hasn't done so far is what a lot of managers do in situations like that, and refer back to the efforts of his predecessor. But Dick Advocaat must have left him with a terrible pile of players, considering that Mr. Advocaat was asked to come back by the club, almost begging him, because you're the guy who rescued us last season, you can do it. Doesn't that show a huge misjudgment at boardroom level once again at Sunderland?
I'm afraid so, yes. And I mean, Dick Advocaat, I was a bit disappointed by him, really, because he did a wonderful job coming in last season. He then said he was going to stay, and everyone was delighted. And then, really, as soon as he realised that it was going to be tough for them this season, he quit, didn't he?
Exactly. And, he pushed off, didn't he?
Went back to Holland, yeah.
And by the way, I didn't like the way it happened, in that I was reading in your paper 36 hours before he quit that he was up at the training ground, emptying his drawers, shaking hands, saying goodbye to everybody. I mean, it was well, positioned by guys like you, and yet he was still strolling around like he was the manager.
Yeah, that's right, exactly, and that's what Sam Allardyce has come into. And if you look at the players that were signed by Lee Coggerton, the director of football, who's now on extended gardening leave, Jermaine Lens, for example, £8 million, Dutch international. Yeah. He's done absolutely nothing, and he's given the impression really he doesn't want to be there after a couple of months because they're at the wrong end of the season. And I think Sam, Sam's had disciplinary problems with him. I think they'll try and shift him out in January if they can do and recoup some of the money they got, but no one's going to pay £8 million for him. Yeah. And Sunderland just don't have the budget to waste £8 million in the transfer market, and I do worry about them. I know we've seen Sunderland get out of worse situations than this. They are the kind of miracle escape acts, but as Sam said just before Christmas, the miracles aren't going to happen every year, and they can't leave themselves with too much to do. But I am genuinely worried about them now, and I think Sam is as well, because there's just not that fight there, and that's what's really got them out of trouble in the past. Is this, is a kind of team spirit and the core of Sebastian Larsson, John O'Shea, Lee Cattermole, and those sorts of players in the dressing room, getting everyone up for it, and they just don't seem to be up for it. I know it's a bit of a cliche, but they just don't. They just don't seem to have the stomach for the fight at the minute.
No, they don't. And also, as the other old cliche goes, you look at the teams around them. I mean, Aston Villa look doomed. Newcastle maybe also are, but I mean, above them, Swansea, Bournemouth, Norwich, and Chelsea, of course.
All fighting.
You wouldn't expect any of them really to end up in relegation trouble.
No, and you look at someone like Norwich, for example, and the squad they've got, and they come up from the Championship, and the job that Alex Neil's done there is fantastic, and they are showing fight. Yes, they might have their limitations, as I think we've seen this season, and they might be a little bit naive in the Premier League still, but they've not had the sort of defeats that Sunderland have had inflicted on them, and in a season of shocks at the bottom, Sunderland just seem totally predictable in that, when they play one of the good teams, they're going to get spanked. So it'll be interesting to see how they do against Liverpool this evening, because as I say, Sam's kind of pressed the nuclear button, hasn't he, and gone for them publicly, and has criticised the players and their attitude, and let's see if that works. Otherwise it's going to be a very, very important January, and as I said at the start of this interview, those comments by Sam, I suspect were designed for the ears of the owner, Ellis Short, as well, in basically saying, look, you might think that you're going to give me a few £1 million to spend, but I'm going to need a lot more than that.
Yeah, no, sure. Now let's look at Liverpool here as well, please, Luke, because they're such an erratic team this season. You remember when it's your patch, when they played Newcastle recently, we were all gambling on how many goals Liverpool would score, because they'd scored 16 in the previous 3 games. And then they went down to Newcastle. They are as erratic as the moods and the smile and the teeth-bearing grimace of their new manager, Mr. Klopp, are they not?
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things I wrote off that Newcastle game was, they'd had that fantastic win against Southampton in the Capital One Cup a couple of days before, and I think this kind of high-octane, high-press, high-energy game that Jurgen Klopp plays. Now, the thing with the Premier League is every game is high-octane, high-energy, and at this time of year, particularly when the games are coming, there's such short recovery periods. It'd be interesting to see how they cope with that when they're playing, a ridiculous amount of games in a short period of time, which obviously we all love in the media, but it's not much fun for the players. Yeah. It'd be interesting to see whether they can maintain that and whether he's actually able to adapt his style of management, his style of play to the kind of physical demands of the Premier League, because I do wonder that, in the Bundesliga, Borussia Dortmund could go to some of the weaker teams and they would win fairly easily. And again, but the Premier League isn't like that. The one thing you're going to get from every single team in the Premier League is a high-energy performance.
Mind you, Liverpool have had a bit more of a rest than everybody else, haven't they? Because they haven't played since Saturday. Everybody else played on Monday. Yeah. And there was some consternation here from my colleague, Mr. Parry.
Exactly.
Being an Everton fan, he was wondering why on earth Everton had to play on Monday when Liverpool playing. But they're playing Sunday, I think, aren't they, as well?
Yes, a favourable fixture list for Liverpool. But no, I mean, that's just down to television, isn't it, really? And this game got shifted for live coverage. So, no, and also, again, as you said, went to Newcastle. A little bit of complacency in the attitude of the players, just thought they were going to turn up. Now, they've had that warning against Newcastle, lost when they're expected to win. Yep. So I'm sure everyone will be expecting Liverpool to smash Sunderland today. But again, it's one of those, they're coming up against a team really who may perform a little bit better because the pressure is off.
Yeah, indeed, we hope so. And how do you see the season panning out, Luke? Because since I was brought up, I've always called the northwest of England the capital of football, because that's where it all happened with Liverpool, Manchester United, Everton. Now, in fact, the power has shifted dramatically, and your patch isn't full of the kings of football anymore, is it?
No, there's no. My patch, the northeast, hasn't been full of the kings of football for a long time. But the northwest, it is a bit of a worry, isn't it, that we're kind of getting now. London and Manchester really is where all the football power seems to lie. And I think that is a worry for the Premier League going forward.
I think, Luke, if you don't mind me saying, I think it's even more worrying that it will eventually all concentrate in London. I mean, I know Manchester United are the biggest club in the world, but I don't know whether we're seeing the first signs of internationalism in football, whereby players only stay 2 or 3 years and they only want to go to the biggest clubs in the biggest cities, London being one of them.
Yeah, and can a club like Liverpool...
What about Manchester City?
I just said Manchester aside.
Yeah, well, I mean, can Liverpool hold on to their best players anymore? Can Everton hold on to their best players anymore? Probably not. I mean, that's going to be the worry for all these clubs who are having good seasons. They're going to lose their big players. And I certainly think you've got a point with the big foreign stars coming in. You can't take away. London is such a wonderful city to live in if you've got money, and it's an international city, and they're anonymous. They can disappear. They can enjoy all the trappings of sort of fame without the celebrity, if you know what I mean. They can have a really good lifestyle for their families, etc. So I think London is a big pull. But to go back to sort of answer the question, what I worry about this season, I do feel we're going to lose one of the North East teams this year.
I'm sure.
I really do. I think it's going to be one of the.
But then I guess you might get Middlesbrough coming up the other way.
Well, you might. You might.
Yeah, I mean that would be great. I mean that would be perfect. But I do think I just. If I was going to say now, I think Sunderland's luck might run out. I've said keep being asked whether I think they'll go down, and I've said no, because they've got Allardyce as manager and they are the escape pack specialists. But I just think their luck's going to run out. I think this year.
It looks grim. And Luke, just to put you in the picture, by the way, about living in London, which unfortunately I have to do.
You don't live in London.
Yeah, you
don't live in London. You live in Surrey.
I live in Stockbroke, Surrey, but I work in London. The thing is, Luke,
I live in London.
I'm glad you qualified what you said by saying London's a great place to live if you've got money, right?
Yeah.
But believe me, if you're a working hack like me and you've got to keep up with the drinking power of Mike Graham, the other man in this studio, London is not a great city at the rate he drinks and the sort of expense he spends on his drink. Bottles of champagne
you left
every
last
day.
night before it started to get expensive.
Of course I did.
You bought me a pint of beer.
Yeah, 2 pints of beer.
Once the double whiskies came along, you were out the door.
2 pints of beer, then he was on the large whiskey chasers. Yeah. I got out that door faster than Jermaine Defoe skidding across a penalty area, believe me, Luke.
You can't get them through on expenses either, that's the problem.
No, exactly. Not
anymore, he can't. No, Luke, listen, appreciate your time. Thank you very much indeed. Luke Edwards there from the Telegraph up there in the North East, and it would be a bit of a tragedy, wouldn't it, if one of the North East teams went down. But
I thought you were going to say it would be a bit of a tragedy, if we had to go drinking and I had to constantly buy your drink for you, which has happened in the past.
Well, because you're so cheap that you wouldn't actually fork out the right amount of money.
How can you talk like that?
How about this from Julian, who I think is a Spurs fan? He says, actually agreeing with you, he says Levy should spend in January, and I agree, Spurs are equipped to win the Premier League. And he says Mr. Levy should listen to Mike Parry.
He should.
Incredible. Here's another incredible one. Yeah. Mark from Northern Ireland. Mike Parry for England manager. He's too intelligent and wasted on the radio.
Hey, I quite like that.
He's obviously been out drinking, this guy.
I was going to say, is that man a Wetherspoon's early drinker? Colleague of mine.
Now, I've got some very good news for you coming up in a moment.
Yeah, go on.
We've appeared on a list, one of those end-of-year lists.
An end-of-year list?
I'll tell you all about it shortly.
What sort of a list is this?
This is Talk Sport. Talk Sport, we are the two mics. Coming up a little bit later on in the show, Porky Vision is going to be on, of course, one of the greatest TV reviews known to man.
This side of the Gobi Desert.
The Gobi Desert.
Gobi Desert.
There are those who may not have been able to hear this in the past because Mr. Parry does it, of course, on our podcast. He does it normally on a Wednesday into Thursday morning, but this afternoon it's going to be on, and he'll be looking into all sorts of television shows that you should be watching, some that you shouldn't bother watching, and you don't want to miss that. It will be on a little bit later on. How about this from Cheddar in Huddersfield? Says, what happened to Brandy, the TalkSport dog?
She died.
She died. She wasn't really the TalkSport dog, but she kind of was.
She was our TalkSport dog. I'll tell you exactly what happened. The guide dogs only have a working life.
Was she the one that had the incident with Lord Sugar? Or was that
Yes, she was, she was. I think she was either ill or urinated on Lord Sugar's shoes.
She was ill,
She was ill, I think, But that could have been my fault, because I might have been feeding her,
you know what I mean?
You
probably overfed it.
Yeah, overfed it, and it's ill. But what happens is that the dogs only have a certain amount of working life. I think it's 3 or 4 years, depending on the, the mental strength of the dog or something like that.
Yeah.
And then they get retired. And Brandy, as you say, was owned by Sean. Sean's dad had a farm in Scotland, but it was more than a farm, it was a landholding, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so Brandy spent her last years running around on this wonderful farm up in Scotland.
Oh, nice.
Chasing rabbits and all that kind of stuff, and then sadly died because dogs do.
Well, everything dies.
Yeah, exactly. And then Chip came along.
Dogs.
And I haven't seen Sean, actually, for a while in person. I spoke to him on the phone and all that, so I'm not sure
I think he retired. I think Chip actually retired.
Chip retired, did it?
One, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Now, how about this one from Gary the Cabbie in Bristol Airport? Porky, you melon. Banwell is a village in Somerset where Thatcher's cider is made.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, talking about cider, by the way, what did I see today? I saw that cider profits are up and that...
Are they?
Heineken apparently owns Strongbow, is that right?
I've no idea.
You know?
I've no idea.
Anyway.
I know that there's now one massive kind of beer company that owns practically every single brand that's out there.
And
right?
85% of apples that make cider in the world come from Herefordshire. Did you know that?
No, I didn't.
Well, I'm not sure if it's in the world, but certainly in this country, definitely.
Are you saying that Herefordshire produces more apples for cider than Somerset does?
Oh, without doubt.
Really?
Oh, without doubt.
Are you sure?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt.
What about Taunton?
No.
Dry Blackthorn?
No, they all come from Herefordshire, believe me.
I don't think you're right about
I know
that.
these things.
No, I don't think you're right. Well, it'd be the first thing you got right today.
Hey,
everything
listen,
else wrong.
Now, I want to point out this tweet we've had. It's brilliant, because you were talking about the goldfish. In fact, we were all talking about the goldfish.
Yeah.
Can you believe that Nicola...
Yeah.
Who has sent us this tweet, was driving at the time,
Yeah.
and she got the other person in the vehicle with her to take a picture of the van in front.
Yeah.
And the van in front
Yeah.
was a company called Goldfish Moving and Storage.
There you go.
And it's got a...
Not Goldfish Disposal, then?
No. Goldfish, G-O-L-D in gold, and then fish, F-I-S-H in blue.
You're so good at describing these things.
Yeah, I am, but I mean, don't you think that's incredible? I mean, that is karma.
It's not that incredible.
Instant karma's going to get you.
It's not that incredible.
It is
Given the number
incredible.
of people that are listening to the show driving around at the moment,
incredible.
one of them is bound to be behind this lorry.
I think we should say thank you to Nicola for providing us with that tweet, because Nicola gets the idea that we like our show to be not wallpaper, but a kaleidoscope of colour, ideas, thoughts, conversation, wit and laughter.
Right. What?
I'm not sure where the last four are coming from. Right, okay.
Now, here's something that will blow your socks off. We've just been tweeted by someone who's pointed out that Bill Burrows, formerly of this parish, a man that you and I know pretty well.
Oh, Bill went right up to the top of the digital age world.
What?
Who's he working for now?
I don't. Well, he's writing for the Telegraph.
Oh,
at the moment.
there you go.
And in the lifestyle section today, online, we just tweeted this out.
Yes.
He's compiled a list of the alternative men of the year for 2015. Right.
Okay.
And it says there are men who win awards for enviable and remarkable achievements in any number of fields, and others who receive plaudits for general do-gooding and admirable behaviour. And then there are the alternative men of the year, men who have also made a telling but a largely unsung contribution in the previous 12 months. Mm-hmm. Now, do you know who's on this list?
Well, I suppose it's people like, who've helped out others over Christmas and all that kind of stuff.
No, it's not in any way sentimental. There's a guy on it called Yasutaro Koide, who apparently makes the list due to his stubborn refusal to die.
Why, what's wrong with him?
What do you mean, what's wrong with him?
Well, why is he stubbornly refusing to die? He must be ill.
He was born in 1903, right?
Yeah. Oh,
and his secrets for a long life, he's the world's oldest man.
Wow.
And his secrets for a long life include avoiding stress, abstinence from smoking and drinking, and something like, he says that he's astonishingly reached the age of 122 years of age.
Maybe Lemmy would have been on it if he hadn't died yesterday.
Well, he might have been.
Yeah, sure.
But Michel Platini also makes the list.
Michel Platini.
And, of course, we know that Michel Platini is in some ways still very much, not sorted out. We don't quite know. It says, look up Schadenfreude in next year's edition of the Oxford Pictorial English Dictionary. It'll have a very brief caption, and it will be ha, 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 accompanied by a picture of the former president of UEFA, the three-time European Player of the Year, Michel Platini, the man who would be king.
Yes.
The man who was responsible for bringing in financial fair play.
Okay.
But he's now been found guilty by the FIFA Ethics Committee.
Come on. So who else is on the list? Who else?
What's wrong with you?
Well, because you've given us a biography of Michel Platini, and we all know it.
I'm reading from Bill Burrows' thing, so that you know who. All right. Well, here's the bit that you'll be interested in. Richard III, he's on the list as well.
Who?
Richard III. Yeah. Richard III.
His bones found in a Leicester car park.
That's right. Yeah. The man responsible for losing the War of the Roses.
That's right,
and all that.
Yeah.
But the most surprising entry on this unsung men list.
Go on. I bet it's Monsieur Alan Brazil.
Is the two mics.
What?
It's the two mics.
That's very nice.
And this is what he says. Take two grizzled abdominus perpetually bladderated in their own peculiar argot hacks from the dying embers of Fleet Street.
Yes.
Give them the 1 to 4 a.m. graveyard slot on the biggest sports radio station in the world, TalkSport. Mm-hmm. What could possibly go right? He asks.
Oh,
He then says the implausible answer is almost everything.
Hey. Excellent.
I'm very honoured to be...
And that's a list issued by the official Telegraph newspaper website.
What?
Is that what it is?
The official Telegraph newspaper website. You talk like somebody who's just landed from Mars.
No.
But was a former time traveller from the 16th century.
Telegraph Online, is that what we're talking about?
It's from the Telegraph Online. I don't know if it's in the paper, but we're very honoured to have been included in that list.
Are. Thank you very much indeed for that consideration.
You could have a listen to it.
That's very nice.
He's also included a bit of a sort of a Clips of the Year type thing.
Oh, that's very nice. Bill is an old colleague.
You know that because we always feature so much on Clips of the Week on Hawksby and Jacobs show, who we are filling in for, to whom we're very grateful.
Yes.
Do you think we should do a Clips of the Week this Friday? Because New Year's Day.
I think we'll leave that to others, to be honest.
Really?
I don't think you can go around examining your own work to that extent. I think
I didn't mean just about us.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I mean us.
Oh,
I mean, should we do a Clips of the Week anyway? We'll have to talk to Dave, the producer.
Yes, I think
he hasn't mentioned it. I got a feeling he doesn't want us anywhere near it.
I think we'll talk to Dave. I think we'll talk to Dave, the producer.
Yeah,
okay?
Well, we'll talk to him and see.
Good. Listen, now last night I had a quick drink with you after the show, and then I had to go off.
Yeah,
to
then
the
you scurried off.
Well,
I've never seen you with such a fire under you.
Hang on.
By the way, you still haven't explained why you're limping when you came in this morning.
Well, I'll tell you that in a sec. But I mean,
tell me now.
Look,
it was time.
It was my birthday yesterday.
We've got to stop.
My family were all gathered in Surrey for the impending New Year celebrations.
What?
Of course, I had to go and see them on my birthday.
What do you mean they gathered for the impending New Year celebrations?
Well, it's New Year's Eve tomorrow night.
What, so we're all going to hang around the same house for 48 hours?
No.
Sort of a weird bunch, are they?
No, there's things to do. The caravan is moving from the south coast.
Somebody turns up at your house on the 28th of December, so I'm here for New Year.
No. I think
you tell them to move on.
No. You understand. It's called the social movement of
snobs.
No. The social movement of society. Of society. Anyway, listen. So
do we not have to stop or something?
Hang on. So obviously, I gave you an hour of my time, which was family time, which should have been my family's time.
Well, to be honest, I wouldn't have cared if you hadn't come at all. I was quite happy to meet my daughter and her fiancé.
Oh well, I was just about to tell you this. I thought I'd come and meet your daughter and his fiancé.
Yeah.
Now, when I meet the fiancé guy, right, very nice chap.
Yeah, you don't have to give his name out.
No, 6'4" tall, bear hug. Now, I'm thinking,
Gave you a hug?
Yeah, of course.
That must have looked funny.
Yeah, well, this is what I'm thinking.
Caught you around the top of the head.
No, but you've... so I said to you this morning...
We have time for this, by the way.
Just as an afterthought, I said to you this morning, how long have men been hugging each other? Because it never used to happen when I was his age, so to speak.
Some men have always hugged each other.
But you said you've been hugging people since your father hugged you.
Well, I don't have any problem with my manhood or indeed with my sort of, social
But it's a very
status.
continental thing, this. I don't normally go around hugging people. I meet people, I give them a firm handshake, a clap on the shoulder or something like that, you know what I mean? Sometimes rocks them, because I've got a very firm clap.
No, you haven't.
And
that's because you're weird.
No, and this idea of, let's embrace and all that. Do you know what that is? That's influence from Mother Russia.
Is it?
That's what the Ruskos used to do.
All right. Well,
when they were Ruskos, by the way.
Well, I don't think you can call them that.
They're Russians now.
Russians,
no, it's all right.
yes.
Yeah, don't worry.
Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah.
We'll explore this a little bit more in a moment.
Okay.
We are the two mics. This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. I'm Mike Graham. He is Mike Parry. I'll tell you what we haven't mentioned yet is England's famous victory a little bit earlier on today. I wouldn't have thought...
Say again, sorry.
England's famous victory earlier on today down in South Africa.
Brilliant.
Sort of congratulated the cricket team.
Brilliant.
For doing rather well, for beating what can only be described as the number one test team in the world.
Absolute congratulations. And also getting that one under their belt before they go to Cape Town, which is the next one.
Yeah, I was looking forward to your analysis of this situation.
Well, the analysis is this, that I think that since South Africa came back into the international cricketing arena, they've only ever lost once at the Cape Town venue.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right, in Cape Town, which, of course, is the Cape at the end, at the bottom of Africa. That's where the Cape is.
You went down there for the World Cup, didn't you?
I went there for the World Cup. But I've been there before to the Cape, and one time I went there, we were down in the East Cape wine fields, and a baboon jumped on my car.
How do you know it was a baboon?
Well, it was a baboon. You could tell.
How can you tell?
I know what a baboon looks like.
Do you?
Yeah, it's got very orange...
Were you driving at the time?
Anus, a baboon. Yeah, and that, it has.
Were you driving at the time?
No, I was in the back of this 4x4, and the baboon jumped onto the car, pressed its florid sort of orange-pink anus against the window, and ripped off...
You have to keep saying that.
Well, that's the distinctive...
that's fine. We've got the picture.
Yeah, okay.
We've got the picture.
And ripped off the windscreen wipers and made off with them.
Right. It's a bit like a trip to Longleat, except it's other kind of gibbons that do it rather than baboons.
I suppose so, yeah. And...
is that all you've got to say about the cricket, then? Well, liken it to a baboon's backside.
No, I didn't, did I? I just said that is an image that you get when you go down there.
Yeah.
No. The cricket is fabuloso down there.
241 run win. I mean, it's quite substantial.
Yeah, it is substantial. As is the rugby down there.
And I have to apologise to any England cricket fans because there was a moment at the early stages where I said, Alistair Cook, out for naught.
Exactly.
Here we go again.
Exactly.
So I'm very pleased to say that
showing
that
your
all changed.
total misunderstanding of the Test arena, the Test game, international game.
I have learned over the years. I have learned over the years that it doesn't. If it starts badly, that's not necessarily the end of it.
Do you know what the guys will do before they play the Test in Cape Town?
Cape Town, yes.
They will go to this fantastic resort, which is 6 miles along the coast, which we used to go to all the time.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember what it's called now. But it's got fantastic bars, restaurants, hotels.
Well, it's just like away from Cape Town?
It's about 4 or 5 miles along the coast. We had our own driver who used to take us along there, when we're in relaxez-vous mood, you know what I mean?
Right.
And I'm just trying to remember what it's called. What's it called?
I don't know what it's called.
It's very famous.
Well, I'm sure somebody will remind you.
Very famous, very upmarket, all that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Yeah, okay.
And they'll be relaxing there. Now, the other thing you do when you go down there is get off to Stellenbosch, right?
Yes.
Stellenbosch is probably
That's where the wine comes from.
Well, I was about to say the most famous wine fields in the world. And
is that the right term?
Stellenbosch?
No, wine fields. I mean vineyards.
Wine estates.
Yeah,
they're called wine estates.
They're not really called wine fields.
No, they're wine estates. But they look like fields because
they are fields.
Andy Townsend and I went there, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you told me the story before.
What I told you?
You told me that you went there and took in fact, we heard some of the audio because you took, recording equipment, didn't you?
Oh, is that right? Yeah.
What do you mean, is that right?
No,
you did it.
Yes, I did. No, what I meant was, we'd played it out. But
you played it out in 2010.
But what you can see is, right, literally, what you can see all over the place are wine fields. And that's why they call them the wine fields, because you stand in the middle, and I'm not joking, Mike, rolling valleys, rolling hills, rolling mountains, they're just all covered in wine fields, honestly. It's most spectacular.
Vines, I suppose you would say.
Yeah, most spectacular and beautiful landscape you've ever seen in your life.
Do you ever drink Stellenbosch anymore?
What do you mean?
Well, because you've been there, do you find yourself buying bottles of Stellenbosch?
Well, they don't actually have wine called Stellenbosch. They have wines of particular brands grown in the Stellenbosch region. You see what I mean?
You don't have anything called Stellenbosch then?
No, there's no Stellenbosch.
Because I don't really drink much South African wine. I've still got that hangover from the days when nobody drank South African wine.
Oh, no, I like New World wines, but my more favourite ones are Argentina, Don't Cry For Me.
You don't have to sing.
I like red Chilean. No, I like Chilean red.
Yeah.
Bit of Argentinian white. I like Australian white.
Yeah. I thought you only drank Pinot Grigio.
Well, you can get Pinot Grigio from Australia.
Yeah, I know you can, yeah.
But I will insist only when I drink red, it has to be French. I don't know why, but I've always loved the Beaujolais grape.
Here's one from Jason who says it's called Camps Bay.
Camps Bay, thank you very much indeed. That's exactly what it is, yeah.
And Pete says, after the theft of the windscreen wipers, the headline in the local paper was Buffoon meets Baboon. Which I think is rather good.
I think that's rather good.
Yeah. Now, the other thing we have to talk about, of course, is somebody's birthday today. Now, your birthday was yesterday.
Yes.
And a man who shares your star sign, Mr. Tiger Woods.
40
years old today.
Yeah. And is it all over for Tiger at the age of 40?
I mean, when I was talking earlier to Colin Murray, I mean, it would be wrong to use the phrase washed up.
Yes.
Because obviously he's worth, hundreds of millions of dollars.
Exactly.
And he's never going to stop earning money. But as a golfer, he's actually washed up.
Yeah.
And he's never really been able to play golf properly. But ever since he blew it that night down at his mansion in Florida.
That's right.
And he was discovered to have been spending most of his spare time in what can only be described as nefarious activities.
No, in Rogerisation activities. That's what it was.
Yeah.
On a large scale.
But I've often wondered, when you take away something like that, which is obviously such a powerful influence in your life, and you just don't do it anymore, and you become this kind of husk, which is kind of what he became. Do you remember that press conference he gave afterwards?
Yes, I do.
The first one after he'd been found sort of to be doing whatever it was he was doing, crashed his car and all that.
Yes.
And his wife had attacked him with a 999 and all that.
Yes, that's right.
He looked like a sort of a guy who'd been, replaced by somebody from the Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
He did. Do you know the most remarkable thing, and this must be karma or fate or something, that his huge domestic explosion, and it was a massive domestic explosion.
It really was.
Because not just because he was found out to have been, having a very active life outside his own marriage.
Yeah.
Which completely destroyed his image of the family man.
Well, yeah.
So it just disappeared altogether. Yeah. Then people started to sort of think, there's another side to Tiger Woods. So he lost that sort of era of trust and all that. So not only did that go, not only did his marriage blow up, not only then did he find himself in terrible domestic turmoil, but that seemed to coincide with his career collapsing largely because of his physical problems.
Well, yeah, that's true, because he was he used so many different sort of, spring-loaded
parts
of his body.
Yeah, that's right.
They said that as he got older, he just couldn't do it anymore.
Yeah, that's
But I think in the end
true.
it was more of a mental collapse than it was a physical collapse. Because, I mean, as people in the golf world have told me many times, he was this guy who used to like to go out and absolutely destroy his opponents. He wasn't good enough for him to win a tournament. He had to, grind them into the dust. If he went out on the final day leading by 3 shots, he wanted to win by 13 shots.
Yes, that's
and he was ruthless, and he was all of those things which he hasn't been for the last sort of several years.
I know, yeah. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Were you ever feeling that you were washed up at the age of 40?
No.
What were you doing at 40?
At 40, I was just entering into another glorious chapter of my career.
Were you?
Yes.
Where were you when you were 40?
Just trying to remember. Hang on. I think it was when I'd left one national newspaper and embarked on a new career at another.
Okay.
I don't want to say what
how
the
did that
titles
go?
were. Oh, very well.
Did it?
Yeah. I
Didn't
got
you
right
have to leave
the top.
there shortly after?
Sorry?
Didn't you have to leave there shortly thereafter?
No.
Then you got fired or something?
No.
Was this before you went to the FA then?
Yes, it was, actually. Yeah. Yes, it was. And then I decided I'd conquered Fleet Street to the point where I couldn't go any further. I decided to take my talents
nobody else would employ you?
To football administration and join the Football Association's Director of Communications.
How did that go?
Oh, very well.
Yeah.
Oh,
did you not get fired from that as well?
Not at all. I laid out a blueprint, which to this day is the way that football everywhere around the world now communicates with the fans, with the authorities.
Isn't it right to say that every Friday you used to spend a bladderation session with all the top Fleet Street journalists?
Indeed.
And tell them everything that was going on?
Well,
on a sort of a deep throat basis.
I believed in more openness, obviously, and I thought that there's got to be more openness, so I'd tell them everything. The problem was Graham Kelly, who was the chief executive of the Football Association, wasn't really on the same wavelength as me.
No.
So every Monday morning, I get this call, Michael, this is Graham Kelly, No, Michael. And Graham was always eating his cornflakes.
At the desk?
Yeah, at the desk.
Right.
I mean, he was a very hard worker, Graham. He used to come in very early. He used to live up sort of Suffolk way, or somewhere up there, and or Essex or something. And he'd come in very early and park his Jag. He didn't have a driver in those days. He drove his own Jag.
Right.
And he'd come in early.
That's
and
good of him.
I'd get the call to his office, because I was always in very early as well, right on top of the game.
Right.
And
covering your tracks, presumably.
And I'd get called into his office, and as he's munching through his cornflakes, now, Michael. And, the previous Friday I'd been out with the boys in Fleet Street, and I'd, forgotten I'd told them a few things which I thought were inconsequential.
Yeah. Which had made quite a big splash in the Sunday papers.
Well, Sunday and Monday morning papers as well, had all been followed up. And now then, Michael, I want you to launch an immediate internal investigation and find out who the mole is inside this building. Who's told everybody that Paul Merton's been stuffing all this stuff up his nose? That's an internal inquiry. I said, leave it to me, Graham. I'll get onto the case right away.
And did you ever find the mole?
And as I was leaving the office, he said, oh, by the way, Michael, how's last week's inquiry going on that situation involving Terry? That was Terry Venables, the manager of England, who was constantly the source of speculation by the newspapers, I said, I'm on that one as well, Mr. Kelly.
Shocking.
Leave it to me.
Yeah,
no, funny enough, I never found out who the mole was.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Do you think Graham Kelly ever suspected it was you?
Mr. Kelly was a very honourable man, and he wouldn't have let his thought pattern or his suspicion level go down under the fence like that.
No, of
Believe
course.
me.
Of course. We are going to be talking to Tim Vickery coming up in a little while. We're going to be asking him about how the preparation for the Olympics is going, amongst many other things. We are the Two Mics. This is Talk Sport.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The Two Mics on Talk Sport.
Now, you're always having a go at me about I don't get enough sleep.
Yeah, well, I particularly assume that this week you are getting enough sleep. I'm actually feeling for the first time ever, for as long as I can remember, not tired all the time.
Right.
Because, when you work overnights, no matter how much you try to sleep during the day, there's something slightly odd about it.
Well, maybe. I mean, it's just that your body clock for centuries, if not tens of thousands of centuries, has been tuned to go to sleep when it's dark.
What do you mean, centuries?
Well,
I've only been alive for a few decades.
Yes, I know, but
my body clock has not been around for centuries.
I'm talking about man and the development of man, you idiot. Homo sapiens as a species, not just you.
Right.
Fuck, yes.
Right. And need to be rude.
And what I was going to say to you was that I don't need a lot of sleep anyway. Now, you know this. I mean, even when we're doing the overnight or whatever, I normally go home, sleep for about 3 hours, get up and have a normal day.
You're one of those people that can survive on 3 hours sleep.
Yeah. Well, not 3. I might sleep again an hour during the day or something like that. I don't know.
You do get a bit deranged once the week goes in and more and more days go by and less sleep you've had.
I think not. But anyway, as you say, at the moment, we're working daytimes, and I find it difficult, actually, to get a full night's sleep.
Oh, yeah?
I don't like going to bed much later than about 9:30 or 10.
Right.
I'm always up by 3:30 or 4 o'clock if I go to bed that late, or 4:30. I go out and I feed the ducks, even when it's dark, because it's quiet and peaceful, and the ducks like to see me coming.
Even though people have told you that feeding the ducks might, in fact, now be an offence if you're not giving them the right sort of food, and also the fact that you give them bread, as you continue to do.
I mean, that's actually what happened this morning was I had my bag of food, right, and it was very, very blowy, and as it blew away, I sprinted after it and I pulled a muscle in my right calf.
Oh, that's why you were sort of limping.
That's why I was limping. It was, and by the way,
you've torn your calf muscle.
Well, I may have torn it.
It's a bit sort of Vincent Company-esque.
I may have torn it. It's very painful. It was like being shot. It was honestly, I thought somebody had stuck a knife in the back of my leg. Eh?
Have you ever been shot?
I've been shot at, as you know.
Yeah, but you've never been shot.
Well, I've never had a bullet enter my body.
So how do you know it's like being shot then?
Well, I can imagine how painful it is being shot. But we'll get to that in a minute. I imagine
it's an awful lot more painful than pulling your leg while you're running for a train.
I wasn't running for a train. I was running after a bag of food at the pond side this morning. Right. It didn't help that I had to then make my way to the station this morning. I did exacerbate the injury, you're quite right, as I approached the railway station, because it's on an incline.
Yeah.
But anyway, that's another story. But what I want to talk to you about is sleep, right, and the theory of sleep and all this. Now, reading my medical journals, as I do, I've come across a case of a very famous situation involving a guy called Paul Kern.
Oh, yeah.
Paul Kern was...
Who was he?
Well, he was an Hungarian soldier who fought for Hungary against Russia.
Yeah.
No, actually, hang on. Yes, he was. Yeah, he was Hungarian against...
What do you mean in the 56 Russian invasion?
No, this was 1915, the First World War.
Right, OK.
First World War. I wasn't actually aware that the Russians were fighting the Hungarians in the First World War, actually.
Well, whose side were the Hungarians on then?
Not the Russians. Not the Russian side.
Well, no, but they must have been on Germany's side.
Could have been. I would imagine so. But anyway, the point of the story is, poor old Paul Kern...
I really can't imagine what the point of this story is.
Hang on, he's going about his business when he suddenly gets shot by a Russian soldier in the head. Now, what happened was... They got him to hospital in a place called Lemberg Hospital. It's a very famous hospital in Budapest. Right. And what they did is they removed the bullet from his head.
Right.
But in doing that, they removed a bit of his frontal lobe on his brain.
Yeah.
Guess what happened after that for the next 40 years?
No idea.
Paul Kern...
Absolutely no idea.
Paul Kern never went to sleep again.
Really?
He never went to sleep.
Huh.
It's a famous medical case.
Right.
The bit of the brain...
I think I've heard about some of this stuff before. I didn't know if it was this guy, though.
The bit of the brain, his brain, they took out, and then for a couple of days they thought, well, he must be, in shock or something like that. And then a week went by, that's funny. Then 2 weeks went by, and 2 months went by, and 2 years. He never slept again.
And was it deleterious to his health?
No. He, in every other way, his life was completely normal.
Yeah.
He felt the same sort of regulatory,
but if he never slept at all, I mean,
he never slept.
There's almost not enough to do.
Well, this is the problem.
You know what I mean?
It's great.
So you get to sort of 1 o'clock in the morning, as I did this morning, and I was watching a movie or something, I went to bed.
Yes.
I mean, if I hadn't gone to bed between 1 and, say, 7, what were you supposed to do?
Well, I can't answer that, but I tried to find out a bit more.
There's only so many football matches you could watch.
Yeah, sure. Well, in those days, they didn't have Sky Box, did they? So Sky Box office or anything like that.
Well, they didn't have television, did they?
They didn't have television, so he couldn't have been watching that. That's what I'm saying. So what he used to do was...
Nobody's reading about Burnley.
Well, don't be ridiculous. Burnley didn't win the championship in 1960, you idiot. Why can't you take these things seriously when I start talking about them?
I can't take anything you say
seriously.
Don't
you think that our millions of listeners will be interested to hear about the man who never slept for 40 years?
Yeah.
Yes,
but they don't want to be kept up all day trying to find what the end of the story is. Can't you make the stories quicker?
I'm telling you that this is an incredible case, and what I'm saying is what's happened is the case has been reopened, and modern-day scientists are now exploring the Paul Kern brain, which was kept, right, to try and find out which bit to take out so that maybe... But
it can't be good for him, surely.
Soldiers on battlefields could go a week without sleeping and be as alert and as on the ball as the minute they woke up for like 7 days.
Well, I suppose the other advantage that you might have from something like that would be productivity in a business or in a factory or something like that. If people didn't actually have to sleep, they could work a lot more.
What this guy used to do is he used to do all his domestic chores and things overnight. So if he wanted to read a journal or something, if he wanted to scrub the floors of his house, if he wanted to build a new dog kennel or something like that.
Was he in the midst of a battle?
No, he was retired as a soldier. He was retired as a soldier.
Right.
Once he got shot in the head, didn't send him back into the battlefield. He's probably suffering from shell shock or something. But what I'm saying is, just imagine if scientists managed to pin this one down.
Yeah.
Just imagine if none of us needed sleep. I mean,
I don't think that would be good.
How incredible would the world be?
No, I think that would be hellish, actually.
Why?
It would be awful.
Why?
Because, I mean, the whole point about repose and relaxation is that you do it because it's good for you. It also gives you downtime. I mean, if you're constantly busy like you are, you end up becoming deranged, which you do.
Don't be daft.
You do.
The only reason we sleep now is because we have to in order to be able to cope tomorrow. If we didn't go to sleep...
Well, you need rest. Your body needs rest. I can't believe that this guy not sleeping at all.
His body didn't need rest.
Well, it must have done.
I mean, look, he didn't go for a sort of a marathon run.
How would you not be tired?
Every night while everybody else was sleeping. He just wasn't. He didn't need sleep.
What did he do?
He would sit by the fire and read his journals and his books and all that kind of stuff.
Imagine how much wood he was burning then, for example.
So?
What's that? So?
No,
Imagine how much wood he was burning.
What's that got to do with it, you idiot?
Well, if you're sitting in front of a fire, you go to sleep at midnight, you let the fire go out. If you stay up all night, you have to burn like twice as much wood.
So what? There's plenty of wood in Hungary.
Yeah, but it gets very expensive.
So he'd go out in the back garden, chop another few trees down.
Then he'd be tired.
No, he wasn't tired. This is the whole point. He was very productive.
I don't believe you.
Well, it's not whether you believe me or not. It's whether you believe the scientists.
Yeah, well, I don't believe you.
I'm telling you, this happened.
Your story, I'm afraid. Now, here's one from John, who's tweeted
Excuse me, you've just dismissed this whole idea as being rubbish.
It is rubbish.
Well, it's not, because it's scientific fact.
I'm sick to death of your completely irrelevant stories, which have nothing at all to do with modern life.
Let's ask the listener if they think it's an irrelevant story.
Of course they do.
It's a hugely scientific development. Now, what load of gobbledygook do you want to tell us?
I want to read you some of the interactions that we're currently having with our listeners, who so far haven't mentioned their lack of sleep and how fascinated they are by the story. John says, let's talk about the cricket. Of course, Porky has to turn that into a tale about himself.
What do you mean?
Which is indeed what you did.
Well, it just so happens to be in South Africa, and, as a widely travelled man, I thought I'd give you the benefit of my experience in South Africa.
You're not widely travelled. When was the last time you went abroad?
About 3 years ago.
3 years?
Yeah,
Where'd you go?
Good question.
You didn't go abroad 3 years ago.
I think I did.
I don't believe you.
I'm trying to remember where I went.
Where'd you go?
I think I went to see an Everton game pre-season in somewhere like Holland. It was Holland.
Really?
Holland. Rotterdam. I think it was Rotterdam.
You think?
That's in... I think. I'll find out.
Yeah, find out.
I'll find out.
Alistair says, MG, perhaps you could remind Porky that Beaujolais isn't a grape, it's a region. The grape grown in Beaujolais is Gamay. Well, he's correct about that.
Yes, I know.
Paul says, I thought Porky was a Lambrusco connoisseur.
No.
And here's one from, who is it? I think it's Liam. He said, if that was the case, there'd be no wine, all the grapes would be rotten. I think he's talking about wine fields full of alcoholic worms.
What? What are you on about?
Well, you keep calling them wine fields,
well,
which is incorrect.
They're vineyards. So, they are fields full of wine producing grapes, okay? Sorry, wine-producing grapes.
Yeah.
That's right,
Bill says, poor Hungarian soldier should listen to you, Porky. He'd be like Rip Van Winkle in 30 seconds.
Well, he might
be able
do.
to send him to sleep.
Well, Shailene sends a note here saying, Mike, did you know that cycles of sleep are determined by the circadian rhythms?
Yes, I do know that.
Did you know that?
Yeah, the circadian
And what are the
rhythms,
circadian rhythms?
I haven't got time to explain.
No, because you don't know.
No, because we haven't got time. Because we've run out, as ever, because you've spent so much time talking about this ridiculous story about the Hungarian soldier.
And that's what people wanted to listen to.
From 1915. We'll get into the circadian rhythms later. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Porky Vision coming up in the next hour or so. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on as well. Right now, though, it's time to talk to Mr. Tim Vickery in Rio de Janeiro. Unusually for me, at a slightly different time of the week.
Indeed.
Mr. Vickery, a very good afternoon to you.
You can see daylight, can't you? What is it like?
Well, I'll tell you what.
Your mole-like existence. You've come out and there's daylight
very unusual, actually, and very pleasant. Normally, the studio in the night time we keep the lights very low down and in keeping with the sort of a lounge type atmosphere.
That's right.
And when I say lounge, I mean the kind of lounge you go to in New York where they've got a piano player.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, here it's the light.
Speakeasy.
The light is blazing in, and we couldn't be happier. But delighted to be talking to you at this time of the day, too.
And a real pleasure for me as well. As they always teach you in radio, you're never alone with a mic. Imagine with two of them.
Indeed.
Exactly. And can I say, Tim, that sometimes when you're on with Mike, I'm sometimes driving home listening to you and listening to you struggle to get your point across to the dim-witted level of intelligentsia that Mike Graham, sinks into at that time of night. So I'm delighted to be here with you, pal. And the first question we want to ask you about, and I think we're agreed on this, the alligator problem.
Yeah.
The alligator problem.
The alligator problem. Now, we're getting documentaries over here about preparations every day now.
You've completely foxed him.
Exactly, for the Olympics, OK? I'm sorry about that. And the latest one where...
I thought you were suddenly a Bill Haley and the Comets fan or something.
No. The golf course, right, which is going to be used for the Olympic competition, is apparently now getting slightly dangerous because the alligators are moving in and things like people's dogs, when they go for a walk, are disappearing.
Yeah, well, personally, I think your alligator, your average common or garden alligator, makes a fairly good caddy. I can't really see what all the fuss is about.
Well, no, except for the fact that if you go onto a golf course with 2 legs and come off with 1, it can preclude you playing good golf in the future.
It does increase your handicap, I suppose.
And it does make the water hazard slightly more of a hazard, doesn't it?
Does.
I mean, if they're going to come out. I mean, I once played in a golf course in Florida where they warned us as we left at the first tee that there was a snapping turtle around and about.
Snapping turtle.
And I don't know if you've ever seen one of these things.
Not quite as dangerous as an alligator, if you don't mind me saying.
You haven't seen these things. They got massively long necks, right? Yeah. And we came to, I think it was about the 8th hole, and this thing was sitting right in the middle of the green, and we just had to avoid it completely because they have quite a fast response. If you go anywhere near them, and they can take your hand off.
Oh yeah, turtle can move like a gazelle, can't it?
They can move very quickly.
Yeah. Tim, let's dispense with all this rubbish.
So brilliant first question from Porky.
Absolutely. I think we've got enough water hazards as it is with the Olympics.
Exactly. Well, I mean, let's talk about
one of the problems.
Let's talk about the water hazards because I mean, the water literally is poisonous, horrible, nasty, filthy.
I saw some pictures of it the other day. Oh my God, there was like toilet paper floating around in the water.
Yeah.
It's horrible.
That's it.
It's horrible.
And it's exactly where I live, inside that bay. And it is one of the most beautiful sights in the world. It's one of the most beautiful beaches. But, you know, I wouldn't dream of going in the water. My girlfriend, she goes in occasionally just to cool down when it's very hot. My 2 stepdaughters go in. Yeah. They haven't yet come out with 2 heads, but I think it's only a matter of time.
Yeah. I mean, and have they given up any kind of any attempt to try and clean it up? I know when you and I have spoken in the past, they've sort of tried to do something about it, but have they just now given up? Are they going to try and make it better?
Well, it'll be just palliative measures during the competition to try and treat the surface of the water to make it less dangerous for the athletes. But once Nelly the elephant has packed her trunk and the circus has gone back, it's the same old. So it's another huge missed opportunity because, you know, I've been here for 21 years now and ever since that and way beyond, people have been talking about cleaning up the bay. It is an environmental tragedy. It's one of the most beautiful places I've ever seen ruined by poor human activity and poor planning.
I know this sounds ridiculous, Tim, but providing you don't fall in, and sailors and people in boats on water are not supposed to fall in.
Yeah, but they do, though.
There isn't a problem.
But they're in and out of the water all the time.
Are they?
Of course
Why?
they are.
I don't see rowers.
There's also the splashes that you get,
right?
You know, as a result of the oars and all the rest of it. And there have been in the kind of test competitions that they've had here, and athletes coming over and testing it out. There have been viruses picked up, and the worst thing from my point of view is that the organisation which seems to be in the forefront of testing the water and finding out just how bad it is a news agency. It's not the official authorities.
Right.
So, you know, we keep finding out just how terrible it is from a news agency.
Yeah.
And had this news agency decided not to do it, perhaps the depth of the problem wouldn't be known. And I find that quite worrying.
Yeah, well, which tells you that they're not really being pressured into it. And why are they not being pressured into it by the IOC, the International Olympic Committee?
It's an insoluble problem. You can't fix it, can you, Tim? It's such a huge problem. It's so vast that you've got a huge area of water which is massively polluted. You couldn't clean it up anyway, could you?
I suspect that at one point the IOC realised that they were in a little bit of trouble. There was a while ago there was panic coming from the IOC, not about the water but about the Olympics in general. Right. You know, that they were saying they'd never seen anywhere that was so far behind and so on. So I think they kind of swept this problem under the carpet a little bit, but it is going to come back and bite people on the backside, I fear.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the year in South American football. Indeed. I suppose. You know, we're going into we're halfway through, I suppose, the busy Christmas period, and Sergio Aguero's still not quite back to full fitness, and Alexis Sanchez is still not back for Arsenal, really. But I mean, you had the Copa America, you had Chile winning their first silverware. There's quite a lot going on.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably the main international competition of the year, the Copa America, with Lionel Messi yet again knocking on the door of winning a senior title for Argentina, but not quite doing it. And it was lovely to be there to see Chile win on home ground. You know, we've only had a Copa America for 99 years. It's the oldest continental competition in the world. You know, so Chile, they would have built their trophy cabinet all those years ago, and finally they got something to put in it, which is very nice for them. And also their style of play makes them very, very attractive to watch. They throw a lot of players forward. It's high tempo, and it's got their coach Jorge Sampaoli on the podium now of the top 3 FIFA coaches of the year.
Well, also he's supposed to be being approached anyway, has he not been, by Chelsea?
Well, he's been approached by lots of people because as a result of all of these FIFA scandals, the president of Chile's FA was forced to resign. So the whole thing is in a state of flux. Now, they've got new elections to have a new president on Monday, and all Sampaoli is saying is after the new president is elected, he'll sit down and talk to him. If that conversation doesn't go well, then he's you won't see him for dust. He'll be gone.
Nevertheless, club football on the continent in South America is still ailing, is it not, Tim?
It is. I think that national team football has never been stronger in South America. There's more strength in depth than ever before. But club football, I think, is probably weaker than it's ever been. I mean, if you bother to watch it, and I do understand, honestly, if you don't, the Club World Cup gives you evidence of this every week, you know, every year on an annual. But it's an annual horror show these days for the champions of South America, and the reason for this is the sale of players. I mean, South American football it's grown accustomed to losing its best players to Europe, but it's now losing its best players also. You know, those who aren't interesting to Europe will go to China, they'll go to the Middle East, and increasingly they'll go to Major League Soccer. And MLS is a rising threat, and it's not there yet, but it looks like it could be on the way to being the best league of the Americas. And that's a threat for South American club football.
Now, at the bottom of it all, and this is a football question, even though it won't sound like one, it's all about money. And if the South American countries enjoy the boom they're supposed to be, Brazil was supposed to be a tiger economy, Argentina's just got a new president who says he's going to turn Argentina into a financial powerhouse. I mean, that's got to be one way of trying to reverse the trend of all your best players going elsewhere.
Yeah, although the question is a little bit out of date, unfortunately. And the economic powerhouse, they've really run into problems. I mean, the thing that was making South America grow was China buying their raw materials. It was very, very vulnerable to a slowdown in China. So once that slowdown in China happened, and we've got real economic problems here, and Brazil, for example, is slipping from recession into a fully fledged depression. It's the worst economic scenario for some time. And back at the time of your financial crisis, 2008, there was a real feeling there that in football terms, this could be the chance for, say, the Brazilian League to establish itself on a par with the major European leagues. We can look back now and see that really hasn't happened. There are a number of reasons for that. And one is that the big European clubs are such global concerns. So, if the economy's bad in Spain, that only affects Real Madrid and Barcelona so much, because they can make so much money from the rest of the world. The other side of the coin is that domestic football in South America is organised very, very badly. It's nowhere near to fulfilling its potential. And it looks like they had that golden window of opportunity between around 2008, 2011, 2012, didn't take advantage of it. And now, unfortunately, Europe is in a better economic situation than South America, and our club football just seems to be going backwards.
We're hearing a lot of hints, shall we say, that there's going to be a bit of money spent in the January transfer window because, obviously, some teams want to survive the Premier League for another year, others want to win it. Any kind of tips on who might be targeted that we don't yet know about from the continent?
Well, if you're desperate, you don't want to bring someone in straight from South America now because, it is a little bit for desperados, isn't it, the January transfer window? You need people who can come in and do a job yesterday. And if you're bringing someone in from South America, you got to give them 6 months at least to acclimatise. So I don't think there'll be too many coming in on a kind of short-term basis. The one, and we have spoken about it in the past, but the one who is being touted is the Brazilian striker Alexandre Pato, which translates as Alex the Duck. Let's see if someone will take a bite on him. He's currently with Corinthians. They loaned him out to their local rivals São Paulo while still paying his wages. They are desperate to get him off their wage bill. He's a very talented striker. It looks like he's got over the other side of injury problems, and also I think all the fame thing came a little bit too early for him. He was hitting the headlines more for what he was getting up to off the field than on the field. It seems to me that he's over that now. He's 26. He's worth a pop, especially if you can get the price down. Now, Corinthians are talking about a floor price now, and there are 2 agents going around England knocking on doors with a DVD trying to sell him. They're talking about a floor price of 15 million euros, which is what? Just over 10 million, 11 million pounds, something like that.
12 million pounds, yeah.
I think you can get that price down because he's a free agent in a year and Corinthians are desperate to sell him. Now, they're saying that there could be interest from China, but he's 26. He doesn't want to go to China yet.
No.
So there's real scope to drive that price so low that it might be worthwhile taking a gamble on him.
Indeed.
Excellent stuff. Well, Tim, thank you very much indeed. I guess the next time we speak, it will be 2016, so we shall talk to you then.
Will do.
Forward to it.
And by the way, Tim, just before you go...
He's gone.
He's gone, yeah. But there's a
No, still here, mate.
No, still here, yeah.
Got time.
Did you know that today is Messi's 500th Barcelona appearance? He's played 499 games so far.
Well, he would have done.
And he scored 424 goals. And he's won 26 trophies. Not bad.
Do you know what the highlight of what I ludicrously call my career is?
Yes.
Start of 2005, South American Under-20 Championships. Argentina had picked this little 17-year-old called Lionel Messi. Even they didn't know much about him. They didn't give him the number 10 shirt. He played one friendly for Barcelona. So no one really knew anything about him. But there was maybe there might be something special there. And I was there in Colombia for this tournament. And when he took the field, it was like, who on earth is this pigeon-toed little runt? Not a hope. And then as soon as he got the ball, we all knew we were in the presence of something special. Wow. So to be in that one from the start of the story, that is that's an absurd privilege.
Terrific.
Thank you very much. You have to read out because a lot of them come in after your fascinating story about the old man who couldn't sleep, right?
Yeah, the soldier, yes.
Here's one from Flora in Glasgow, who's texted into 81089. She says, Mike, do as I do during the sleepless nights, buy an adult colouring book. Ha. I remember you were advocating that a while ago.
Oh, no, I wasn't. I was saying how ridiculous that adults go around buying these books in W.H. Smith's.
Yeah, but they're bestsellers, these things.
Yeah, they are bestsellers. But, unlike the colouring books we had as kids, where you might get, say, so you got a duck, OK?
A duck.
Yeah, and it might have 6 different...
Why is it always with ducks with you?
Hang on. Well, I think they're lovely creatures. And it might have 6 different colours on it. When you get these... Have you ever seen one of these adult colouring books?
I've seen them for sale. I've
on
never
one
looked
page,
into
you
one.
might have something like 67 different colours
really?
in something like 1,000 different little compartments. You know what I mean?
Well, presumably you don't have... You could fill them all out with the same colour if you wanted to.
No, you can't. The whole idea is that you...
What's the point of having a colouring book that you have to follow the colouring code?
Because, for instance...
You see, that's typical of you. You see, you are somebody who is completely and utterly enmeshed in what you think you're supposed to be doing.
No.
If somebody gives me a piece of paper and says, do this, do that, don't do that, I'd immediately do what they don't want me to do.
No, but you
that's
see...
the difference between
No, you see, you don't understand. If you've looked at one, they might be replicating the window of York Minster.
They might be.
Now, the window of York Minster's got about 100 different colours in it, so you have to do that. Anyway,
you can do your own version of it.
Yeah, listen...
I haven't finished reading out these tweets.
Oh, right, OK.
Trucker Tim says, can you ask Porky if the scientists will be inserting the homing pigeon brain into the soldier's brain at the same time as they do away with their need for sleep?
Yeah.
Mike says, hi, Porky, if that Hungarian chap was alive today, all he would need to do is listen to you waffling on.
Yes.
And I guarantee he would fall fast asleep.
It's a bit harsh.
Here's one from, let's see... Flinty, the bloke that didn't sleep should have read Porky's book. That would immediately send him into a coma.
Oh, that's very unkind, that is. Are you talking about my best-selling book? You're talking about that one, are you?
Which book would you like me to talk about?
Well, I've written so many that...
Which one do you refer to as the best-selling book? The one that you did with Alan Brazil?
Yes, that was my best-selling book. That was called There's an Awful Lot of Bubbly in Brazil.
Yeah.
The follow-up was a bestseller. That was called Both Barrels from Brazil.
When you say bestseller,
yes.
What defines that?
A bestseller has to sell over 100,000 copies or get into the Sunday Times bestseller list. We did both.
And does Mr. Brazil know that's how many you sold?
Of course, because he took most of the money from it.
Oh, OK.
Yeah?
So you didn't actually make any money?
Well, of course I did. Of course I had my financial arrangement, it's not a problem.
Yeah, 5% Parry, they call you, right?
What? Are you
5%
mad?
Parry.
Are you mad? Don't come as cheap as that. Listen, the reason we were playing a bit of Bruce Springsteen there is
Bruce
because...
Springfield, as you referred to earlier.
I did not, you
yes, you
idiot.
did.
No, I didn't. Is that, as you know, he was called The Boss, and he was big, wasn't he, in our days in Born in the USA big. And all that. Yeah, he's still pretty big. But
he's not really called The Boss anymore.
No, that's what I mean. He's not, but used to be a boy in a pair of jeans playing a guitar, dancing around.
Funny enough, when he when he did that album, Born in the USA, that was when I kind of stopped listening to him.
Oh, why?
As far as the new songs.
Because it become commercial.
No. Well, it wasn't as good as some of the earlier stuff.
Oh, I loved it. Dancing in the Dark.
Well, you would love it because you like anything that's in the top 40.
Yeah, that's right. I do. Yeah. If it's not top 40, you're a loser.
You have no musical taste at all. People pointed out earlier, by the way, that when you were deriding Motorhead for only getting to number 15 in the charts, they weren't really a singles band. They were an album band and they were a live band.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, mate, in the musical world, they're just also rans. You know what I mean? Without being unkind to Lemmy, he only died yesterday.
Yeah,
God rest his soul.
That's not nice.
But the group itself disbanded the moment he died anyway, so there is no more Motorhead. Now, studying my business journals, right, I was reading this book called The Road to Character.
You were busy last night after the birthday party.
This is over the last couple of days, actually, Okay. So I was reading this book, The Road to Character, okay? And it's all about leadership and what you are in life. Now, they quoted the late Felix Dennis. You know Felix Dennis?
I do.
He was a fantastically successful publisher, had a £100 million fortune.
Was he the guy behind Oz?
He was part of the Oz scandal of the 60s, but I mean, he bounced back from that. Yeah. That was a trial, wasn't it, over obscenity publishing? But he bounced back from that, and he had so many successful magazines. The last one I think he put together was The Week, which is still going, obviously.
That was the digest of all the other stories taken from various different places. Okay, right.
But I think he also had things like FHM.
I think I nearly ended up working for them.
Oh, maybe, yeah, okay. But anyway, look, this is what he said. He talks about leadership, he talks about individualism, he talks about how people are taking in working for other people, okay?
Right, yeah.
And he said, team spirit is for losers. It's the glue that binds the losers together. It's the methodology employers use to shackle useful employees to their desk without having to pay them anything at all. Unless you realise and accept that you cannot be one of the boys, that you and your bosses are not in this thing together, that only those who refuse to be conned by the idea of team spirit in the workplace can succeed, then you will only make other people rich.
So what's your point here? Are you saying that it's not a good idea to be a team player? You've never been a team player.
I've always been a team player.
No, I beg your pardon.
No, you don't understand.
You tell me one instance of when you were a team player, please.
I've always been a team player, but the reason I've always been a great team player is because usually I've been the team leader. And it's me being the team leader. No, me being the team leader has helped so many other people. You see what I mean?
I don't think you have.
Steered them through
You've never a popular
the emotional pitfall. Sorry?
You've never been a popular boss.
I have.
No, you haven't.
Oh, yes, I have.
What, do you think when you were boss of this place you were popular?
Of course I was.
You want me to ask a few people?
No, there's no need to. There's no need to go into forensic research like that. Ask the hundreds of journalists who are under my control at the Daily Express whether I was a popular boss.
I have.
And they'll tell you I was.
That guy came up to you in the reunion and said, I always hated you and I still hate you. And I just want to tell you that I'm hating you even now.
I thought it was very unnecessary, actually.
Yeah, but I mean, that's what happens.
I don't know why he wasted his time doing that.
People bear grudges against you.
You know what his name
years.
was? His name was Jim Watson.
You don't have to give his name away.
No, you know, might as well. He was one of those Scotsmen.
He's still alive, you know.
Yeah, I know he's still alive, yeah. He was one of those Scotsmen for whom the expression, you know, it's never difficult to tell the difference between a Scotsman with a grudge and a ray of sunshine.
You're going to upset the Scots now.
No, of course not. I love Scots people. We did a show up there in Glasgow recently.
Yeah, you didn't stay there long either for that.
But that applied to him perfectly. And of course, we're having this reunion in the Old Express building in Fleet Street, now owned by, I think, by a Japanese bank or something. Yeah. They very kindly said, yes, you guys come in. It's a magnificent building. Yeah. And he, for some unknown reason, walked over to me with a glass in his hand. He probably had a few. And he said, can I have a word with you? And I said, yeah,
I've
sure.
just told the story.
No, I'm telling it as fact.
No, you don't, because we haven't got time.
And we went over in the corner, and he said, I just want to say one thing. I said, just what's that? He said, I didn't like you then, and I don't like you now, and I'll like you even less tomorrow. And walked off.
Yeah.
That show was pointless. What was the point?
He wanted to make it clear to you that whatever misapprehension led you to believe that people actually liked you as a boss. Because, I mean, funnily enough, I was reading an interview that El Hadj Diouf, who's not one of the most popular names in football,
exactly.
given to a magazine, I think, over in France. And he's referred to Steven Gerrard as an egotist. He says that, you know, he's not a guy who was a team player at all. He didn't care, according to him, about how Liverpool got on, as long as he was scoring a goal.
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true.
Well, how do you know it's absolutely true?
What?
That's what Steven Gerrard's like.
Well, Steven Gerrard's very, very successful, so he must have had those traits that make people successful. Because going on to my book, which is where we started this, right? Yeah. Felix Dennis, right, never got married, never had any children, but left £100 million fortune, but did admit during his life to spending at least $100 million on drugs, wine and women, which in my mind makes him a winner. Right?
Makes him a winner. Well, if he's got it, I suppose.
Yeah, but it is largely believed he suffered from loneliness, as do many who rise to the top.
Which makes him a loser.
It seems it is the part of the price you pay for absolute success. Those with the greatest ambition are quite willing to endure such drawbacks in exchange for the rewards, which are power, status, money, right?
Yeah, and you sort of think that you're like that, don't you?
Of course.
You secretly think that this is you that they're describing.
Well,
that you've given up all of these kind of shackles of normality because you're such a success.
I don't. What are you laughing at? You see, you feel loneliness. You feel loneliness because you're a herd.
No, I don't.
You're a part of a herd.
A herd?
No, part of a herd. I'm not.
Seen and not heard.
If you're part of a herd,
you've seen the time.
If you're part of a herd, mate, I am your shepherd. Right? That's the way it goes.
Yeah.
And I've just got to say here, listen to this. According to a new survey, right, which is called Lonely at the Top, a third of
In your case, it's lonely at the bottom.
A third of FTSE, that's Financial Times Stock Exchange, 350 bosses.
FTSE, we call that.
FTSE, that's right, yeah. A third of FTSE bosses admitted to feeling pressured or lonely because of their workload and their success. See how it is? See what it's like being,
but you're not successful.
Being up there?
Yeah, but you're not successful.
There's usually a defining moment in the formation of any enterprise when the potential spoils are divided and the roles assigned. On such occasions, the killer instinct emerges from those who possess it.
Okay.
Killer instinct, that's what it's about.
Yeah, well, I mean, you haven't got that either.
I've always had the killer instinct.
No, you haven't. You're deluded beyond the point of ludicrousness.
No, you don't know what loneliness is. You fear loneliness.
I don't know what it is.
I don't fear loneliness.
If I want to know what loneliness is, I'll ask you.
Yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I fear no evil.
Really?
Yeah.
Right. Glad to hear it.
Okay.
This is Talk Sport. This is TalkSport. We are the two mites. Coming up in this hour, Mickey Quinn will be along to tell us what's coming up on Drive at 4 o'clock, of course. He and Sam Matterface in the chair. We've got Porky Vision coming up a little bit later on as well. And there's an amazing story, Mike, that's just been drawn to my attention, which is apparently running on various websites, one of the most popular stories of all time.
Yes.
Listen to this for an intro. Police chiefs in Belgium have reportedly launched an internal investigation into claims that soldiers and police officers held an orgy while colleagues hunted for terror suspects.
What?
This is in the Brussels neighbourhood of Ganshoren, it's called. There was a police station there where all the police had to stay while they were trying to search for the Paris attackers.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
And apparently, according to this report, 2 police women and 8 soldiers are said to have engaged in a sex party.
2 women and 8 men?
Yeah.
And was this like a heterosexual party, do we know?
Well, I presume so.
True, the odds are a bit unbalanced, aren't they?
Well, that's what an orgy normally is. I mean, why do you have to get into the ins and outs of it?
Well, in my view, it would have been a better orgy if there had been 4 men and 4 women. If you see what I mean? You know what I mean?
What difference does that make?
Well, you wonder what sometimes...
These are the kind of Charlie Sheen odds you're talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, look...
Anyway, it's just an extraordinary story.
Well, it is extraordinary, and actually, you don't want to make sort of too much merriment of it.
No, I don't think you should.
If it's happening in the middle of a very important and major terrorist inquiry, it's absolute a damn disgrace.
It is, absolutely a disgrace.
Yeah.
Now, let's talk about New Year resolutions, because probably what's going to happen, I would imagine, on Friday's show is that you might have to make a few New Year resolutions.
I'm not making any.
You might have to make a few predictions.
Never going to do them.
Really?
Already I'm reading, you won't believe this, it's funny you should raise it, but I'm already reading, like, star columnists, so-called, you know what I mean?
Well, it's the easiest thing to do,
Oh,
isn't
yeah. My resolution's for the very busy year ahead.
It's the basic tap-in, isn't it?
I mean, they're always...
Come the end of the year.
But it's lazy journalism, in my view.
It is, yeah.
Because what you're doing is, instead of writing about something which will actually change people's lives and provoke their thought into something that's going on, it's so easy to just, take a bit of white paper, which is a blank page, and just slap down a few, I'm going to do this, we're going to do that, give up smoking, know. I mean, some of the ones I've seen today are just ridiculous. Things like,
Are you saying you've never, ever made a New Year's resolution?
Never in my life.
Really?
No, never. And the other thing...
Have you never done that thing where you give up drinking for January? A lot of people do that. That's become quite a trendy thing to do.
Do you know what? David Emery, an old colleague, he was the sports editor at the Express, used to do it every year. And he got through every year, January, no problem at all.
Yeah.
One year, he went as far as one of his son's birthdays, which I think was in sort of April or something like that, which was amazing because David, of course, was a regular attendee, being the sports editor Express, at the Cheltenham Festival, which was 4 days at the middle of March, obviously. Right. And he got through there without a drink. Brilliant.
That is extraordinary.
But then after that, it kind of damaged him psychologically, because I remember years after that, or the following year, I said, Dave, there was no point in me coming to see you. He was like, yeah, it is all right. I said, why? He said, I'm having a few sabbatical days this January, and then it all collapsed because it become too much of a strain. But no, I've never done that, because I think it's ridiculous. Look, if you want to give up drink to improve your health, just do it any time you like, but just don't do it in January because everybody else does it.
Yeah, but sure, I mean, I guess what you might say is, if January gives you the opportunity to do something to improve your lifestyle in one way or another, then that's probably a good thing, isn't it?
I think January is actually...
if it's just an excuse.
I think January is the most miserable month because it comes in the wake of frivolity and merriment, and people start getting bills in for Christmas and all that. So there's a general malaise, I think, in January.
Did you see there was a story today, actually, that said that something like the vast majority of people who've spent something like £2,700 over the Christmas period will not repay it for something like between 2 and 10 years.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Good God, that's terrible, isn't it? So what do they do next year then, for next year's Christmas money?
Well, they just do the same.
Just add on.
Yeah,
it's terrible, isn't it?
It's a sort of revolving credit scenario.
No, I don't. And as for the New Year's resolutions, I mean, look, if you want to get something sorted, just get it sorted. Why's it got to be the New Year? Most people break them anyway.
No, but what I'm saying is that if it is in fact just an excuse and it gives you a reason to do something which is good, then why not? I think I'm all for it.
The other thing
I don't make them, by the way, either.
No, exactly. The other thing I can't stand is a New Year's Eve party where all of a sudden some, smart ass gets a microphone or something and starts saying, right, come on,
it's the kind of thing you would do.
Count down. I've never done this.
If you're ever in a room with a microphone, you normally commandeer it.
Well, if people ask me to address them about a particular issue, then I'm happy to help out. But, when they get to the old, 10, 9, 8, oh my God.
You mean the traditional countdown to New Year?
It just drives me.
You're such a Grinch,
I would leave the room if that happened. I would leave the room, honestly. I couldn't care less about it.
So I take it you're not going to a New Year's Eve party this year,
absolutely not. I don't go out New Year's Eve. New Year's Eve is a night for amateurs.
Yeah.
And
it's very difficult to get around, actually.
They clog everything up on New Year's Eve. I saw some signs as I walked up.
Well, all around here, because I normally would work New Year's Eve night. And they close off this entire area because obviously people are watching the fireworks.
Well, I've just
becomes a pedestrianised area.
All the signs at the station with signs pointing this way to the river and all that. Apparently there's going to be 500,000 people in London on the night of New Year's Eve watching fireworks.
Well,
I'd rather watch them on the telly.
Well, people are about 20 rows deep. They go there at sort of 9 o'clock in the morning.
What fun do you get out of that?
And wait for 15 hours, sometimes in the rain.
It's just madness. It's madness. What fun do you get out of that?
Well, I suppose it's a once-in-a-lifetime thing.
I wouldn't want to do it. But anyway, look, we'll get around to what's happening New Year's Eve on New Year's Eve, shall we?
Well, I suppose so.
Because we're working New Year's Eve, which is... it's tomorrow, actually, isn't it? It's tomorrow?
Yeah,
it's tomorrow. That's right, yeah. And then New Year's Day, of course, another big day for us, filling in here for Hawksby and Jacob.
Yeah.
By the way, my Twitter handle, @MikeParry8.
Yes.
That is my Twitter handle, isn't it?
That is, yes.
A lot of excitement in that this week because of us doing these new slots and all that kind of stuff. So keep it going. And what's yours again? Yours is...
it's at IROMG.
Yeah, why is that?
Well, it's the Independent Republic of Mike Graham. But when I got my first Twitter account, I couldn't find any combination of Mike and Graham that hadn't already been used.
No,
so in the end, I just gave up. So
okay.
I thought, and that was what my old show used to be
called.
Roy says this.
That's pretty clever.
Misquoted poetry, ex-employees who hate him, thinks he's at the top. I think Porky is losing his mind.
Well, you see, that's only because you put those sort of daft ideas into their heads.
I don't think so.
Hey, by the way, when Tim was on, there was another Brazilian story I wanted to ask him about, and it was about everybody goes to Brazil now should beware of going to nightclubs.
Why?
Because that phenomenon that happened in Miami and Florida in the days when you and I were there spread to Brazil.
What's that?
Businessmen get picked up by escorts.
Yeah.
And the next thing is they wake up the next morning, literally lucky to be alive, with everything gone.
Yeah.
And it's down to the drugged jars of margarita.
Oh, what? Sort of spiked drinks and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, all that kind of stuff.
It's a problem all over the world, though, isn't it?
It is, yeah. But apparently it was related to the economy being under pressure. With the economy being under pressure, call girls are under pressure. There's not much money around. So now instead of sort of working, if you see what I mean, they have to go around robbing, apparently.
No, indeed.
Yeah.
Here's one from Nathan. Says, if you're not in the top 40, you're a loser, ? What number did Porky get to with Paint It Black? Hashtag musical plank.
Now, I think on the radio the other day, 236, which was wildly inaccurate. I actually got to about number 63.
Really?
But, of course, mine wasn't...
I thought you only needed about 5,000 sales now to get into the top 40.
I think you might do. I'm not sure. Well, this was some 10 years ago.
Uh-huh.
Or was it 10 years? Yeah,
Probably
about 10
20.
years ago. No, about 10 years ago. And, of course, you have to remember, I didn't make that with any... intention of becoming a rock star or anything like that. I did it for charity.
Yeah.
Did it because a company called Red Letter Day said, "Here, we'll give you a studio. You want to do it?" And then we flogged loads of people wrote in here and wanted a DVD, so I sent it them, and we sent all the money. Actually, it was videos in those days, and we sent all the money to charity.
Well, it was all 10 years ago then.
Yeah.
And here's one from Depp, who says, amazing that the Has-Beens Motorhead were due to play 2 nights at the 8,600 capacity Eventim Apollo in January.
Yeah.
So there you are.
Where's that?
The Apollo.
Is that the Apollo Theatre in London?
I presume it's the
Is that now called
Apollo,
the Eventim, is it? Okay.
Yeah. Well, it used to be the Hammersmith Odeon, right?
Hammersmith
We
Odeon.
talked about that as well.
Listen, do you put anything on your face, like makeup or anything like that?
No.
At all?
No.
You won't believe this.
Why would I?
Well, because I was going to
Do
say...
I look like I put makeup on?
Yeah, I think
Although,
you do.
I'll tell you what, the times that I have had makeup on,
yes,
whenever I've been, very rarely asked to appear on television, it does make you look a lot better. So,
might make you look a lot better.
It does.
It doesn't alter my appearance at all.
Doesn't it?
No.
Well, you were, of course, the star of a television show, weren't you?
I was, yes.
For many, months, weeks?
Years.
Years? How did it go?
Well, it was an investment, which I ploughed a substantial amount of money into.
And then what happened?
What?
Then what happened?
What do you mean?
It went bankrupt, didn't it?
What?
Didn't it go bankrupt?
What? Honestly, I don't know why you...
The sports internet TV show.
Sports Night Live, actually.
Yeah.
And
didn't it go bankrupt?
Well, it wasn't a financial success that I thought it might be, put it that way. You know what I mean?
Well, I'm not surprised with you at the helm.
But listen...
That was when you dyed your hair red and your beard red.
I didn't.
I've got a picture of it.
I just re-altered my appearance.
Yeah, I've got a picture of it.
To suit it. But what I was going to say is, do you know what? Since the advent of the individual camera and the selfie, sales of makeup have shot up £100 million a year just from people who admit they use it just to take
male
selfies.
makeup, you mean?
Yeah, male.
Really?
Yeah.
How bizarre.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Is that another one of your fascinating little factlets?
Well, it comes from the trade journals that I'm constantly sent, and of course I apply my time to, so I get my facts
that Hair
right.
and Makeup Daily? Marvellous. I must read that. Coming up next...
Oh, you might have worked on it when you were a kid. You worked on the Baker Daily, didn't you? Or the Cobbler?
No, I may have applied for a job.
Is it the Cobbler you worked on?
Shoe and Leather News.
Shoe and Leather News, that's it. Yeah, top publication.
Yeah. No, I was down to the shortlist for editor of it, but I didn't get the job.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The Two Mics on Talk Sport.
Here's one from Fraz, who's texted
Fraz, I like that. That's a great name.
I don't know what it's short for. He says, Mike, ask Porky to look at his journals for the word charlatan. It will explain his entire career.
Really? And why should I take any notice of abusive sort of messages like that when I get, other ones which are very, very much more... like Luke here says, it's kind of scary. I'm listening to the Two Mics and I'm completely sober.
Yeah, that is unusual.
Yeah, it is, absolutely, yeah.
Here's one from Rev in Reading. Please tell Mr. Parry that Motorhead had 3 top 10 singles and a #1 album.
Not according to the stuff I've read overnight.
Not also round, you buffoon.
Well, look, mate, I'm not, there's no way that I'm being disrespectful. Poor old Lemmy's gone now, but he had a very colourful life. But honestly, I looked at all the stuff last night, said it never got higher than 15. But I'm prepared to be proved wrong. Now, this is an interesting one from Gordon.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, Mikes. I see Mein Kampf is going on sale in Germany for the first time since World War II.
Yeah.
I'm waiting for the Porky version.
Right.
Well, for those who don't know, Mein Kampf was the ludicrous book that Adolf Hitler wrote when he was in jail in the 1920s after the Beer Hall Putsch. It's one of the most unreadable books in the world. Literally,
I'm sure it is.
Because I had a look at it when I was in the sixth form, right? Because I studied lots of literature in those days. I had a look at Mein Kampf.
I don't believe you did read that many books when you were in your sixth form.
I did. I look at Mein Kampf.
Did you ever finish any of them?
Hey?
Did you ever finish any of them?
Well, you couldn't finish a book like Mein Kampf. It was so boring. But the other one I read at the time was The Little Red Book from
Chairman
Mao.
Yeah.
And the third one was, because believe it or not, he had written it before he was killed, the Life According to Che Guevara.
Oh, yeah.
And the most interesting one was Life According to Che Guevara.
Is that what it was called?
No, it was called, some Spanish word for my dream or my belief or something like that. Because Mein Kampf means my dream.
Motorcycle Diaries. Have you seen the Motorcycle Diaries?
Of Che Guevara?
Yeah,
I have. When he was all over South America on a motorbike, Bolivia and Ecuador and all sorts of places.
Film.
Do you know he's a qualified doctor as well?
Yeah, I know. That's what the film's about.
And yeah, that's right. And he had asthma. And they hadn't had asthma. He might have succeeded.
Yeah. Here's another one from Ian in Oldham. It says Lemmy and Motorhead sold more than 15 million albums worldwide. Not bad for average musicians.
Yeah, but hang on, that's over 50 years.
There's still a lot of albums, a lot of money.
How many?
15 million, 1.5.
1.5?
Yeah.
And Fleetwood Mac had sold 300 million.
Well, it doesn't matter, but if you assume that people paid, say, 10 quid on average for each one of those.
Yeah, but hang on.
150 million albums.
Hang on, Fleetwood Mac sold 300 million. Old Lemmy and his mate sold 15.
Yeah.
That's only 5% of what Fleetwood Mac sold.
Well, it doesn't
so
matter.
they're only 5% as good.
That's
I'm not
rubbish.
knocking old Lemmy. They had a great life and all that.
Where does that put the Two Mics DVD sales then?
Pretty high up.
Well, do you think so?
It's still for sale, by the way. We're going to relaunch it in the new year, by the way, folks.
But it's not anywhere near 15 million.
The Two Mics DVD on sale now on, what is it? Where is it? On our website.
It's on the website.
What's the website called?
It's called the2mics.co.uk.
The2mics.co.uk.
But you don't have to keep plugging it unmercifully.
No, I'm not plugging it. I've hardly mentioned it this week at all.
People will get fed up.
No, they won't
get fed up. Now, I hope you've done your research for the Porkyvision section, which is coming up very
definitely.
shortly.
Oh, definitely. I'm very excited about it because sometimes
you're accused of not doing enough research.
No, sometimes I feel that the listeners don't really appreciate the depth to which I go to analyse the programmes I've been watching. They'd rather me do a more literal type of interpretation. They'd like me to actually tell them what's gone on in the programmes I've watched.
Yes.
But I prefer to go behind the scenes and tell them what's wrong with the programmes I've watched.
Well, that's fine.
OK?
That's fine. Well, that is coming up next right here on Talk Sport. That music can only mean one thing. It is the return of Porkyvision.
Indeed.
In fact, this is where Mr. Parry tells you what he's been watching, what you should watch, and what you shouldn't watch, basically, in his own inimitable style. What have you been watching this week, Mr. Parry?
Well, I'll tell you what. I'm going to tell you about Dickens in a minute. It's a great new TV series where they've
what it's called?
Yeah, it's called Dickens, and they've brought the classic Charles Dickens novels. Charles Dickens, of course, came from Portsmouth, where I have a home, and there are statues of him.
You haven't got a home there. You've got a home in Gosport.
Well, that's across the other side of Portsmouth Harbour, where there are statues of him all over the place. And in fact, Mike, there is a picture of us around the Dickens
it's outside,
statue.
Portsmouth Guildhall, isn't it?
Portsmouth Guildhall, where we did a live show last year.
Yeah.
So,
last year. A lot of people are asking what's happened to your voice, by the way.
No, nothing's happened to my voice.
You started saying things... No, hang on. You started saying things like last year.
Yeah, and Bath.
And Bath.
Yeah, well, I like to improve my diction.
Talk like that. I mean, yesterday it was forrid.
Like to improve my... And lots of people, by the way, joined in last night the debate and said forrid is exactly the way it is pronounced.
No, they said it was pronounced that way in the Black Country.
Now then.
And you're not from there.
Now then. So the Dickens thing I'll get to in a minute, because that's what they've done is the great Charles Dickens books have been brought into modern day life.
Yeah.
And it's a new interpretation on the individual books, OK?
Yeah. And what's it called?
It's called Dickens, and it's about the old Curiosity Shop.
Yeah.
It's a bit about Oliver Twist, bit about...
You sure you got the title right?
Yeah, of course I have. It's Dickens.
You sure it's not Dickensian?
Dickensian, that's it. What it is, that's a Dickensian. Yeah. Right, now then.
Same old, right?
Let's get to the main programme that I want to review this week, and that is the Agatha Christie one, and Then There Were None.
Yes, you mentioned this a couple of times.
Now, it's in 3 parts, right? Yeah. Brilliant.
Is it finished now?
It's finished night before last. Okay. But I only saw it last night because
So you've seen all of the parts now?
Seen all the parts.
So what you mean, after the birthday party, you managed to have enough time to get home?
I did, actually.
Watch another episode of And Then There Were None, and read all those journals.
Well, I was intrigued. The only problem is, although Agatha Christie was the greatest crime writer in history, although she sold like 100 million books, although she was an expert in poisons, and that's why so many of her books are about people being poisoned, including in And Then There Were None, by the way.
Okay.
The first victim went down to arsenic poisoning.
Did he?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And, there we go,
Yeah, don't give it away.
No.
Some people won't have seen it yet.
Now, listen, for those who've actually recorded it, want to see it later...
Yeah, don't tell them how it ends or anything.
Well, it doesn't matter.
Well, don't give away who's responsible.
The story was written in 1936.
Right.
Right?
Well, yeah, but people might not have read it.
Of course they've read it, and they've seen other versions of it.
Well, I haven't read it.
Everybody knows the judge was the killer.
No, they don't.
No, they do.
That's ridiculous.
Everybody knows the judge was the killer,
We'll take that
right?
out of the podcast.
No. Everybody knows the judge was the killer.
No, I don't know that.
But what's intriguing is the way that they all get done. Now, I do think it's preposterous because, well, the judge to start off with is about 88 or something like that, a retired judge.
Yeah.
Is he supposed to have gone around stabbing people, hanging people, shooting people,
is that what he did?
Throwing people off cliffs, battering their heads in?
Surely he couldn't have done it alone.
Why
are you focusing on who did it? Well, I think you should do that. You should focus on the mystery of who did it, surely.
Well, there's no mystery, is there? Once you found out who's done it, the mystery's all over, isn't it?
We're pretending you haven't told us that.
No, the point is, at one stage, I thought, now, let me tell you, the last victim, who was a woman, who had been Rogerising...
What's her name?
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, right.
I don't know.
Okay.
But listen, this is a great part of it. Now, this is what's come out of this show. We've found the next James Bond.
Why are you banging the table?
Because I'm excited about it. We found the next James Bond. Guess who the next James Bond's going to be?
I don't know.
Poldark.
This is not his name, though, is it?
But I do know his name. Now, the actor...
What is his name?
Aidan Turner.
Okay.
So the actor who played Poldark, galloping around in
He
Cornwall...
spent most of that show with his shirt off.
Yes, most of the same show. Galloping around in Cornwall on a black horse, a black charger.
Yeah.
Sometimes with a beautiful young lady on his horse.
He's Irish, isn't he, Aidan Turner?
Well, I think, yeah.
I suppose you can have an Irish James Bond. We had a Scottish one.
We've already had an Irish James Bond.
Yeah, we had Piers Brosnan.
Thank you very much indeed. In fact, we've had a Scottish James Bond in Sean Connery.
Yeah.
An Irish James Bond in Piers Brosnan.
Yeah.
And an Australian James Bond.
Eh?
Australian.
What's that, Lazenby?
Big Fry. And then a Welsh one.
Who's Welsh?
The current one.
What?
Current one.
Well, what's his name?
Daniel Craig.
What, he's Welsh?
He's Welsh.
Is he?
Yeah, he's Welsh.
Sure?
Yeah, everyone knows he's Welsh. Of course he is.
I didn't know.
Now then, so what I was going to say was, so in this one, Aidan Turner is a dastardly mercenary who, and the reason he's been...
Is it set in a period way, or is it sort of modernised?
No, it's set in 1939. Because I thought to myself, why...
Daniel Craig was born in Chester.
Chester.
Where you're from.
Yeah. That's right,
well,
yeah.
He's not in Wales.
In fact, he's the most famous person ever from Chester.
Yeah.
It's very close to Wales, though, isn't it? You know.
Well, he might be, but he's not Welsh.
Well, people...
He's an English actor, it says.
There's a bit of a debate about that. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
Only in your brain.
Now then, what I was going to say was, so Aidan Turner, right, is a dastardly individual who's been a mercenary in Africa, and he... A bit like, the My Lai massacre in Vietnam?
My Lai.
Yeah, and there was a very famous army officer involved in it.
There was.
What was his name?
Yeah, I can't remember.
I can't remember his name either. But anyway, he got done years later for, unjustifiably murdering civilians.
Yeah, that's right.
And this guy just quite openly boasted about, because it was when the colonial power was at its worst in terms of corruption.
What's this got to do with the show?
Well, this is what it's got to do with the show. He was one of the people who was sent to Soldier Island. Mind you, the plot was a bit daft, because the person who sent the invitation...
I mean, is it very sort of mysterious? I mean, were you surprised when you found out at the end who it was?
No, I'd worked it out.
Had you?
I'd worked it out.
Because that's the fun of these things, isn't it?
I'd worked it out.
It's like watching Columbo.
I used to judge. No, Columbo's brilliant, because Columbo shows you who the killer is at the start.
Yeah.
And then you have to work out how Columbo's going to catch them. That's
right.
That's a different twist altogether.
Oh, okay.
No, now in this one... By the way, it's getting dark outside tonight. Last night it was as bright as a button.
Well, maybe we've just been here. Maybe it's just been here longer.
OK, so what happens is...
It's because it's cloudy today.
What happens is...
cloudy.
The judge is about the sixth to be killed,
right.
But I realised that it was all...
Well, I thought the judge did it.
Yeah, he did, but it was a set-up job, you see. So what happened is...
What do you mean he wasn't killed?
No, what happened was this.
You said he was killed.
He got into league with the doctor.
Yeah.
And the doctor
Who's the doctor?
The doctor was another one of the potential victims.
Right.
And he said to the doctor, we only found this out at the end, look, I tell you what, why didn't you and I form an alliance? Because there's a murderer on this island. It's not you and it's not me.
Well, why were all these people getting murdered anyway?
Because in their past lives they'd done something terrible.
Oh, I see.
And
so
like
retribution.
Like a scrawny East End detective who'd beaten a man to death in a cell.
Oh, OK.
Right?
So it's karma.
It's karma. It's
right.
karma. But no, it's the judge, actually, meting out his own justice. So anyway... So the judge says to doctor, whose name I can't remember,
OK.
Why don't we form an alliance?
Right.
And the doctor says,
Which part does Aidan Thingy play, then?
He plays the mercenary guy I've been telling you about, OK? But he's still alive at this stage. So what happens is they devise this plot where the judge is found slumped in a chair with...
He's just pretending to be dead.
Yeah, with an alleged bullet hole in his head.
Right.
And what must...
An alleged bullet hole.
Yes. What must either be claret or tomato ketchup or something all over his clothes.
Right.
But do you know what they did? And this is where I realised that perhaps he wasn't dead. They'd stuffed a load of steak and kidney pudding on the back of his head.
Eh?
To make it look like his brains.
Oh, I see.
Make it look like
who would be fooled by that?
Well, this is what I said. I knew then. I thought, I've spotted the flaw in his plot.
Right.
So Judge is slumped in his chair, steak kidney pudding all over his head.
Yeah.
A doctor goes up, and the doctor's absolutely bladderated, you know, and feels his pulse and says he's dead.
Right.
So
the doctor's already in on it, though.
Doctor's already in on it.
Right.
But then, an hour later, the doctor says, I'm not feeling well, and goes running off. Right?
Yeah.
But by this time, they put the judge's body in a bed as a mark of respect.
Yeah.
So the steak and kidney pudding must have fallen on the floor, I would have thought.
So they didn't bury him, though, fortunately.
Well, they couldn't bury anybody, could they? They're all getting killed, like, every few hours.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Right.
Couldn't bury people.
So is it worth
quick.
seeing this thing, then, anyway?
Well, hang on, because then the doctor runs out, but then he's found battered to death a bit later on.
The doctor?
No, yeah, somebody's pushed him off a cliff.
All right.
So in the end, there's only one woman left.
So that's the title, isn't it? And then there were none.
But what the woman does... No, this is...
Isn't that a bit obvious?
Well,
You're going to kill a load of people.
Yeah.
And then everybody on the island dies apart from you.
Yeah.
You've kind of given it away, aren't you?
Well, I thought so. Anyway, look, what happens is Poldark, Aidan Turner, he then starts, getting fruity with the single woman.
The one who's left.
The one who's left.
Right.
Well, no, but there were about 6 of them left when he first got into Rogerisation mode.
Why was
it
called and then there were 6 then?
Well, because they were killed one by one.
Right.
So that at any stage and then there were 7, and then there were 6, and then there were 5, okay? And 4, and 3, and 2, and 1. So then he starts, Rogerising.
We're nearly running out of time on this.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Rogerising.
There were none minutes left.
The young lady.
Yeah.
Okay, the young lady.
Yeah.
But then, when there's only 2 of them left, because we don't know the judge is still alive,
right.
She decides in her evilness, well, it must be him, because it's not me. So she takes his gun. He's the only person who's got a gun.
What, the judge?
No, Aidan Turner, Poldark.
Right. Okay.
And shoots him.
Right.
Like 5 times.
So he's dead then?
Oh, he's dead on the beach.
Yeah.
He's dead on the beach. But then she goes back to the house.
So then there's only her and the judge left?
Well, yeah, but she thinks
the judge is dead?
She thinks the judge is dead.
So then surely she'd get blamed for killing everybody else?
Well, that's a thought, except that didn't happen because the boatman never came.
What?
Who pays the ferryman?
Who's the boatman?
Well, the boatman's the guy who comes to Soldier Island to get them all.
Oh, right.
But he didn't turn up. So anyway...
so somebody kill him?
No, nobody killed him. Somebody paid him not to go.
Ah.
Yeah, anyway. So what happens is then...
I don't think I'm going to bother watching this now.
No, she gets back to the house, stands on a chair,
right,
ready to hang herself.
Why?
Because the judge has put a hanging rope up in her bedroom.
Well, so what?
Well, she's sort of mentally a bit distraught then.
Oh, okay.
But then at the last minute she changed her mind, but then the judge walks in and kicks a chair away. And then...
so literally from beyond the grave?
Beyond the grave. But anyway...
If the boatman doesn't come back, then he's stranded there, isn't he?
No.
He's got his own boat.
Oh, no, he sorted out. He shoots himself.
What?
He shoots himself.
That's ridiculous.
No, the judge shoots himself. Yeah, honestly, yeah. And this time he shoots himself properly.
Yeah.
So when you see the brains all go on the mirror behind him, they're real brains this time.
Right. Okay.
But the strange thing was, the mirror didn't crack.
No.
So if he shot himself...
maybe the bullet didn't come out the other side.
Well, of course it did. If you shoot a bullet through your throat into your brain, it normally comes out the top of your head.
Oh, not necessarily.
Well, it would. Do you know what happened to the bullet that killed John F. Kennedy?
Well, that was a dum-dum bullet.
Well, it went into his head, and then it went round the inside of his skull, they reckon, at least 3,000 times, and then came out the back of his head and took his skull with it.
Yeah, well,
it's amazing.
Because it exploded on impact. That was the kind of bullet it was.
That was amazing, yeah. But it went round like, like a bloke who drives a motorbike on the wall of death.
What are you talking about?
Well, I'm saying the analogy is that the bullet that killed John F. Kennedy went around inside his skull just like a motorcyclist on the wall of death.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to Poldark.
Simon has just tweeted us to say, I'm so confused with this episode, I'm throwing out my TVs.
No, don't even worry about it.
That's what he says.
So that sorts out Poldark, right? On the Dickens thing, what they've done is they've taken all the old Dickens... Victorian, Georgian-type settings and brought them into modern life and told the story again.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Right. So everyone's in there.
The old curiosity shop is the new curiosity shop. Oliver Twist is no longer a beggar, child,
What's
a begging
Bleak
child.
House? Is it Bleak Block of Flats?
Bleak House, well... It could be described as Bleak Pento, like in Penthouse or something like that.
Bleak
you know what
Pento?
I mean? Yeah, rather than Bleak House. And all these kind of things. And A Christmas Carol, of course. Very, very modern version of that and that kind of stuff, you know what I mean?
Okay.
Probably worth watching. I haven't seen it yet, but it's no doubt good.
I think you may have got this completely wrong. There's one from Jim who says, everybody knows it was the judge that killed them all. Superb. My wife dislikes Porky even more now.
What?
That was Porky Vision.
Everybody knew that. It was written in 1930...
Just stop talking. Stop it.
No, it was written in 1939, actually.
Was it?
Yeah, because that's the date on the opening sequence.
Really?
I saw that.
Well done.
On digital radio and 1089 and 1053 AM.
The Two Mics on Talk Sport.